Uh, Water Street too. This is OHS.
OHM has a presentation.
But I believe her email at first. Go ahead, they're starting.
Oh, perfect. All right, you ready? No, you're good right now.
Just
No, but we're gonna do roll call and then.
Okay.
Yep, we can. All right.
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Deputy Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon,
Present.
Mayor Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Fellows,
Present.
Councilmember Tucson,
Present.
Councilmember Simmons,
Here.
Councilmember McLean,
Here.
Councilmember King.
Present.
Right. We have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
All right, giving folks a minute. I'll entertain a motion for agenda approval.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Councilmember King. We are hoping to create a consent agenda of 98, the minutes, 99 for the dispatch contract extension, and 100 for the municipal lot rehab. If folks are okay with that. 98, 99, and 100.
I do have a question about 100.
Leave 100 all. All right. Any other changes or updates to the agenda? Okay. Oh, yep, Mayor Pro Tem.
There was a request to bring a couple items to the top, one being MOU for the cruise nights. 102. And what was the other one?
I would not support that because a lot of people are here for the items that are at the top presently.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem has the floor. He stated he had something else to add.
I don't recall what it is, but the point is that that discussion, those other discussions are going to take longer than this one, as I presumably.
All right. You want to make a motion then, because we've already heard.
Yeah, move to take 102 to the top. Support.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon, supported by Councilmember Tucson, to move resolution 102 to, assuming the top of resolutions.
Yes.
Any discussion? Councilmember King?
I would say I don't necessarily support that. We had someone here at our last meeting and they stayed to the very end to, hear about a resolution that we had in there. And that was a long meeting.
Thank you. Further comment or discussion? All right. Deputy Clerk, if you call the roll on the amendment.
Councilmember Fellows,
No.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
No.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so G will move before A. Any other updates to the agenda? Bless you. All right. All in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, and for the audience, what we just did is that letter G will be the first under the section that says resolutions, motions, and discussions.
Thank you.
And then letters C and D in that same section will become a consent agenda, which will happen before that as well, but you'll see it as we move through. Okay. Deputy Clerk, now I need the list for the public comment. Thank you. This is our opportunity for public comment. Members of the audience will have 3 minutes to address council for 60 minutes at the top of the meeting. We will alternate between in-person and virtual members, so 10 in the room, then 10 online, and back and forth until we get to the 60-minute mark. Those who signed up that we did not get to in that first hour, we will have a continuation of public comment after the business. And when I call your name, if you could approach the podium if you're able, state your name and your address for the record if you feel comfortable, and then you'll have your 3 minutes. All right, the first name is Iana Tucson.
On behalf of a young man who lost his life recently. He was a classmate of my son, friend of my family. I've known the family for over 28 years, and he was a neighbor. So I am speaking and reading a letter to you all and to our community on behalf of that young man who lost his life. So. Marty Williams. Thank you to Police Chief Anderson and the Ypsi police officers and the dive team for not giving up until Marty was found. You all behaved like he was your child in the river. Myself, and this is on behalf of his maternal grandmother, Scalita White. Myself, she says, Marty's grandma, his mom, Tiara, dad, Gary, and our entire family. We appreciate you all and thank you for coming to his celebration of life service. With sincere thanks, Miss Scalita White, and she's of Belleville, Michigan. Furthermore, I would just like to add that, again, this was a young man that my son saw in class every day, even on the day that he went into the river. It is a sad state of affairs when a 13-year-old child does not live out his potential. His or her potential. It is a devastating loss, but while it is painful and the family is healing, which is why they are not here, and I am speaking on their behalf. Again, the sole purpose was to give thanks for all those who searched for hours, recovering his body. Not only did they do that as their job, they also took the time graciously to attend his memorial service. And so we all want to extend that thanks to them for doing that. Also, as a parent and as a citizen of this community, I want to impress upon this city council and maybe even with the Parks and Recs, while I know it is not a federal requirement to have life preserves in our urban, waterways, this, while it's painful, may be something that this board and Parks and Recs can consider. So that maybe, this tragedy can be mitigated in the future. Children are definitely dealing with a lot on their shoulders. We're living in a very unusual time. While we don't want to say this will never happen again, it is certainly a consideration. So again, thank you to the police, all the medical staff that were there to recover Marty Williams in his honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you. We continue to send condolences to their family, just devastating. Nancy Margolis.
Councilwomen. I'm Nancy Margolis. I am the Executive Director of Embracing Our Differences Michigan. It is an art and education program about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm here to thank you for hosting the banners in Riverside Park. This will be the 5th year that we're putting it up. We're very proud to have the Ypsilanti logo on our banner. And I want to invite you to come down for a tour. We have led tours, and I'd love to give you a tour. I'd also like to invite you all to Diversity Day, which is happening on May 17th at Washtenaw Community College. It's going to be a wonderful celebration of the diversity of our whole community. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Nancy. See you at Diversity Day. Duncan Reitz, I'm sorry if I said it incorrectly.
My name is pronounced Duncan Wright. It's kind of like a German Ritz cracker. And as for my residence, I live in 225 South Grove Street, Building D, apartment 118. Anywho, I'd just like to comment that I am grateful for Mayor Brown and everyone else's initiative against ICE. And hopefully we can get them out of Washtenaw County, and then hopefully someday they're completely abolished. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Chantel.
Hey, good evening. Hello, everyone. I'm Chantel Brown, and I'm actually a member of the Ladies Literary Club here in Ypsilanti. I am the chair of the literacy outreach for the club, and we put together a program where we actually, I'm sorry, I really wasn't prepared to come up to speak. But, you know, I can do it.
Yeah, we can.
So we put together a literacy program. Our mission is to work with early education. So we thought about doing a twofold and bringing in high school students to assist us in that effort. And being a former sports player, softball was my game. I thought about bringing in athletes, and so therefore I called in a favor from my uncle Danny Brown, who's the athletic at the high school. He said yes. So to our delight, there were over 10 high school students who came in and assist little kindergartners and first graders around for Reading Month. And I have several pictures of little people looking at these very tall athletes in their jerseys, ushering them around on Literacy Day. And we're just so appreciative of Mr. Brown for jumping in with no hesitation to assist us in this endeavor. Good. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Thank you guys for me to come before the council to say.
And we'll be talking about you again shortly.
You will.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Sherry. Good evening.
Good evening. Sherry Wander, 706 Davis. Y'all, there is so much on this agenda that I am opinionated about tonight. ICE is evil. That's not a word I use easily. We need to do everything we can as a community to stop them, and where we can't stop them, to send a strong message that we don't approve of them kidnapping our neighbors. The data center, bad for community, bad for the environment. You know what you need to do. The thing that I want to speak a little more in detail about is allocating money for unarmed non-police response. As many of you know, I've been involved with care-based safety. It feels a little ironic to be up here today talking about this when we just made the difficult decision to sunset care-based safety. I'm proud of that decision, though, because we sunset in order to be ethical, in order to continue to be care-based, and to assure that the work continues. And we would have continued if we'd had more resources to do so. And I would be happy to forward to any of you, all of you, our documents on the lessons that we learned and continue to learn in the years that we worked. We did respond to crises. We responded to mental health crises, to drug overdose crises, to communities that are afraid to call the police. Communities where when the police comes in, it increases their sense of danger, not their sense of safety. We need numbers that people can call that increase their sense of safety. And one of the biggest things we learned was that we could not be sustainable in doing that without municipal support. I think it was in January of 2025 when this body called on the county to put funds towards an unarmed non-police response. And I was so grateful for that. And I really hope that you will follow up on that with voting for the city to put some funding towards it, because we were able to do so much with very little. And I just think had we had the broader support to continue, you can't put a number out there and say, call this number if you're having a crisis, but maybe not in 2 months because we might not have the funding. And so to be able to have that ability to have some longevity, to have sustainability, would have made a huge difference. There are so many people who learned so much in the pilot that Care-Based Safety put forth. We can continue to build on those learnings if we have the funds to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich Scholar Schulk. Good evening.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor Brown and council members. My name is Rich Stoller Schulk. I'm a 28-year resident of Washtenaw County and a retired EMU professor, and also an advocate with MIRA, the Movement for Immigrant Rights Action. And I'm here to speak in favor of the resolution to rein in the terror of ICE. As you all know, ICE has been conducting kidnap operations around the country in a violent and lawless fashion, and this has got to come to an end. It's endangering our communities. As our MIRA observers have observed the violent activities of ICE and other immigration enforcement agents on the streets of our communities. The communities are organizing block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, and counting on elected officials to support them in this effort to preserve safety and security in our communities. I have friends who are afraid to ride the buses or to drive to go to work and conduct their daily activities because of this reign of terror. So we definitely need to bring this to an end. Just last week, you may know, in Ann Arbor, ICE agents surrounded a vehicle in downtown Ann Arbor and came out with guns drawn right across from a child care center. This cannot go on. We've got to put a stop to it. So right as I speak, the detainees in the North Lake Processing Center, the concentration camp in Baldwin, Michigan, the largest in the Midwest, are on hunger strike because of the appalling, inhumane conditions there. So anything that we can do as a community and as elected officials in the community is much appreciated to try to rein this in. So again, I urge you to support this resolution and to do everything you can to provide for the security of everyone, regardless of their status, nationality, race in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Shayna Schwem? Sorry, I'm always messing up. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Shayna Shom. That's okay. First, I'm an Ypsi resident, and I just wanted to thank you all for the swift action that you all took at your last meeting in support of my neighbor, Miguel Reyes-Reed. With your support, it snowballed an effort that looked like support across our county, showing up for our neighbor, your fellow resident, and we're so happy that the judge ruled in favor of his bond and release, and that he's back home. And so it just, I left that meeting being so moved by all of you, and seeing that local government can do so much good and that you were the first to show that change and stand up and show your colleagues that they can do the same. So I really just want to extend a deep thank you to all of you for doing that, and ask that you continue showing up in that way, because there is so much more need. And I know that you all have so much more power and energy to continue showing up in this way. And so I'm asking today for you to continue showing up in that way in support of this resolution to defund ICE and CBP and halt deportations. You can continue to lead the way and show that Ypsilanti is going to stand against hate and division, and that we stand for being together, keeping our community strong, and for love and all of the things that make us a really wonderful place to live. I also want to encourage you to support the resolution for community responder programs. Like others have said, it's one thing to be able to say there are alternatives to calling the police, but to actually have the resources to say these are really great alternatives and here are the options and they're well resourced is another thing. And we want that in our community. I know we talk about it in our neighborhood a lot. And we worry when we see that the police is faults that folks go to when the police is not actually the appropriate option. So we really want to, I want to encourage you to consider that resolution. I would also like to encourage you to support the moratorium on the data center utilities. I think this is a really brilliant way for our city to show a stance against this from an ethical standpoint, from a safety standpoint, and from an environmental standpoint. I'm here with my son who's 6 years old, and he knows about the data center and the damage that it will do to our community. This is not something that is safe for anybody. I don't want it in any community, and I certainly don't want it in ours for multiple reasons. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Kate Levin. Good evening. Hi.
Hi, Council. I'm Kate Levin, 704 Hemp Hill, and I'm here. There's a lot of great resolutions here this evening, and I thank you for listening and responding already to the community's concerns about ICE. I really hope that you also pass this resolution to defund ICE and CPB and halt deportations, and the citywide Know Your Rights campaign would be so helpful, so great. And as I know you know, being undocumented is not a crime. Everyone should have due process, and these abductions they go against our Constitution, what our country stands for. Willow Run shouldn't be used for deportations. I also would like to support the community responder program resolution. We saw how terrible things got during that siege when the person having a mental health crisis was ultimately responded to with a SWAT team and with the house being destroyed. And, it was just horrendous. We really need this, the community support for people who are having all kinds of problems that don't require the police. And also, yes, we should definitely tell Yucca no water or sewer for the data center. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Marley Higby. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Marley. Back in January after the Cross Street siege, you all talked a good talk about like how this is appalling or absurd or whatever, and like that you were going to get to the bottom of it. And since then, I kind of just I've not noticed you doing anything for it. Like there's some nebulous plan like to ask the police chief to present on something. That's all. It's been over 3 months. So even like at that meeting, as people like left, as the meeting dragged on, like you kind of walked back any like actionable thing and just retreated to your rhetoric. And I think that's shameful. Like, we deserve better, and this unarmed response thing is, as far as I can tell, the only possible effort that you've made about doing something to rectify it, which is not enough on its own, but at least it's a start, and I hope I don't leave here disappointed yet again.
Thank you. Aurelia Rosas?
Leah Rosas and I have been living in Ypsilanti my whole life for 22 years. And as you know, I am the daughter of Miguel Rosas Ruiz. And I came here today to, first of all, to thank you all for your support for passing the resolution last time and writing a letter. Thank you. And for just everything you did in support of our dad. And I want this to be proof that, you know, the communities uniting is stronger than all the hate that is being pushed around the country right now and amongst communities. And I want this to be a moment of unity amongst all communities in the U.S. and specifically ours here. So I am speaking in support of the resolution you guys have for all these actions against ICE. You know, no family should have to experience what we experienced in the fear of, you know, just randomly having our dad taken away. No children should have to face this. No children should have to fear not seeing their parents again. No children should have to fear being taken themselves. No children should have to experience their parents being kidnapped. And this, you know, no one should have to experience any loved one being kidnapped. And every single person in our community is a loved one. So I want to ensure that you will take action to make sure that no one has to go through this terrible time that we went through. But as well, no one should have to experience the terrible trauma that my dad had to go through in there, and that my dad suffered. He was just one of over 1,000 people in the North Lake Detention Center. There is consistently over 1,000 people in there in these times, and there are over 60,000 people kidnapped and detained in ICE centers around the country, and they have the inability to speak because they are silenced with fear. They are suffering through inhumane conditions in there. They suffer through mental abuse and multiple different things that no one should have to ever experience. So please, I want you to do whatever is in your hands to shut down these detention centers, to ensure that none are built, and to abolish and defund ICE as you can, and ensure that all Ypsi residents are always safe and protected. Thank you.
Thank you. We are at number 10, but I'm gonna actually take the liberty to have I have Michael Rosas signed up next, and then we'll move to online.
My name is Michael Rosas, a resident of Ypsilanti for my whole life as well. I'm also son of Miguel Rosas, and I want to also say thank you. Thank you for your help and your support. The letter really, really helped. My father told me to directly thank you guys. He is so grateful. And if he wasn't in fear of being taken again, he would have come here himself to thank you, but he can't, because even though he is free, he's not really free. He has to stay home. He can't leave. And there's many more people like him. And I come here in support of the resolution to defund ICE. And I want to say a few things. First of all, we all know how illegal their kidnappings are. I want to tell you a few specific things my father told me. When he was detained, they took him in, and they took him to a secluded area by the Little Caesars and where the Rite Aid used to be on, what is that, Platt and Packard, hidden away while they discussed. They hid him away while they discussed so no one could see him. They discussed things. They first accused him of being Miguel Rosas from Guatemala, who was wanted for crimes in Detroit. He refused that, and he was not. Then they said, "Oh, okay, you're not. Well, we're going to take you in anyways." No process, no due process at all. They didn't check anything. They just took him in after accusing him of being something, and when they were clearly wrong, it didn't matter. They still took him in. And, a lot of people here have talked about how horrible it is in there. I want to tell you one specific story about how truly horrible it is in there. My father told me that one of the last few days he was in there, a gentleman that was in there with him started screaming from appendix pain. His appendix had actually burst. I don't know, I've never experienced that luckily, but it is an intense pain. And he was on the floor, writhing from pain, screaming, yet no guard, no one cared. Everyone was trying to get someone to come get him, but no one did anything until all the prisoners united, made a ruckus, and they finally had to come in and take him. They took him to the hospital, and when he came back, he told them that the doctors told him that if he would have waited a little longer, he would have been dead. People frequently have epileptic seizures in there, and no one cares. They're not treated like humans. This isn't fair. There's no humanity in this. This is not legal. This should not be legal. Our taxpayer monies money are going towards these facilities. But the North Lakes Detention Center is by GEO, the owners. Last year, in 2025, they reported record earnings, a new all-time high. They opened during Trump's first presidency. Then when Biden came in, they closed. And then when Trump was up again for re-election, they donated $1 million to his campaign. And as soon as he got elected, as soon as he came into office, they opened again. And they receive a lot of taxpayer money to fund their operations. So I just implore you to please defund ICE and do whatever you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay. We are going to go to those online.
Peter?
Good evening.
Good evening. Peter Church, Ypsilanti. I'd like to speak about the cruise night resolution and just kind of inform people briefly about the cruise night. It's been going on for over 3 decades now, and far from just being like a car show, it really has inspired a lot of people to seek out careers in the automotive sector. I think over the 3 decades, it's easily hundreds of people that have gotten good paying jobs and careers out of inspiration that they received when they were young at the cruise night. The other aspect that I guess I'd like to dispel is that it's not a bunch of old white guys. The automotive culture and cruise night is diverse as the automotive culture is diverse. We've had participation from Dedication Car Club, which is the largest downstate lowrider club. We've had participation from various Black automotive clubs, and also from various women who have cars. So it's something that's worth supporting because of what it does, not because it's a car show. It inspires and it shows people things that they may not know about and that they might like to participate in as a career. The other thing I wanted to comment on was the low May resolution. Last year I commented on this and I pointed out that there's absolutely no scientific results that supported no May, and it was in fact widely discredited. Again this year, unless the weather changes radically in the next 2 weeks, which it could, but if it stays warm, we will once again have missed any opportunity to save bees via a low May, because it would have to have been low next 2 weeks. So I guess I'd like to suggest that we should make more bees. We should partner with someone like People's Opportunity Farm and have some hives and set up some bees to improve the bee population in Ypsilanti. Anyway, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. You said there was something else? Okay.
Ben?
And I guess we're on the online portion, so
was worried that I wasn't gonna get called on because I didn't get an announcement on. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Let me leave. I'm so sorry. I know this is taking so much time. That's okay. Sure. I live in Ward 3, and I urge City Council to pass Resolution 2026-96 and 2026-97. 2026-96 is partly symbolic in my opinion, but it's important for Ypsilanti to do whatever it can to counter the appalling and unconstitutional actions of ICE and protect voting rights. Establishing a real, proper, non-police crisis response has been a need for decades, and after witnessing the needlessly violent police escalation and siege of a community member's home in January, passing 2026-97 is absolutely imperative. It is disturbing how little has been done to rectify that situation, and passing this resolution would be only a drop in the bucket, but it's an important step. Also, I've spoken on this before, but I support the moratorium on new data center zoning permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online?
There's no more.
Fine. Okay. Back in person, Patricia Lewis. One more time, Patricia Lewis. All right. Deron Weatherspoon, Senior.
Witherspoon Senior, Ward 1. First, I just want to, after joining the Water Street Committee, sitting up there like that, I want to always tell y'all thank y'all for making a tough decision, rocking for the community. I wanted to know if there's any kind of canvassing possibilities that me or my organization can try to raise awareness to the RFQ matter, that we can get more community engagement. What that looks like for me, kind of like just helping me get some copies. You guys a little bit about our Community Violence Intervention Summit today. It was Youth Day. It was epic. We had great keynote speaker. We had great breakout facilities. Me and James Adrian tag team room, about 60 kids in there, 60 youth. Had a real good dialogue. I know you guys couldn't be there who wasn't there. And I'm hoping I'll see y'all tomorrow. Let y'all voices be heard. I'm always in support of the people that's on this bench right now. Y'all my first city council people, and y'all been stepping for the last 2 years, so I appreciate that. I want to echo the attendees' voices that I heard, and let y'all know from me, I feel like the community is very serious about the ICE situation, the Frey House lighting. Guys, on behalf of my Next Gen organization, during their last summer workshops, they earned a trip to Big from you guys from completing their curriculum, and they all I got them to go from homeschool to actual school, so they all went to all the different schools, my executives. So that was a transition for them. But I'm here to ask, can we get back in motion with that? I believe they have close to the 50.
Those are the names I had signed up on the list. So I will take hands from the audience for who would like to address council.
that ice is cold and cold in its doings. But we want to include also that the United States of America is cold in its doings. Now, concerning the incident concerning Marty, I have 23 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren, and that thing touched me deeply. And I will give great congratulations to his grandmama, who was not able to come, but sought someone out that would speak for her on her behalf. There were 3 agencies there. We had the fire department there, we had the sheriff department there, and we had the Ypsilanti Police Department there. Police department that come to a funeral to show condolence for nobody. So your chief, he made history when he did that. He also brought along with his
address council, please. It's us. Please.
All of y'all hear me?
I understand.
Okay, all right. Every one of you hear me. Now you interrupted me and you took away a minute. I need a minute added to what was taken.
I didn't take a minute.
Okay. Shake your head, but I'm telling the truth. The police department, Ypsilanti Police Department, showed condolence by showing up at that memorial for that young man. Those policemen even sat with the family showing condolence during that event. Now, it's strange to me that an outsider, Marty's grandmother, who not even live in the city, comes to give respect to the police chief of the Ypsilanti Police Department for what they've done, and they can't even get it from people that live in Ypsilanti. And some of y'all sitting up there, they can't even get it from them. So you know what? I would wish that y'all would change your minds and your attitudes on things that happen in the city. Ypsilanti was made shine on that day because of how the police chief conducted his folks. He made the council shine, he made me shine, he made the city manager shine. And y'all ought to be happy about a man that can make you shine. I take that to the bank.
Thank you. I saw another hand out here right up. Yep, please come. Good evening.
Understand me? When justice is ignored, in spite of it all, I come here and stand tall. At the age of 5, I believed in true love. The love that wouldn't call you names, leave you dry and curse my name. The love that wouldn't lead you on, talk behind your back, and place you at the forefront of blame. Let me utter this as I foreshadow my aim. I am no fool, and I am nobody's game. To profess myself disgusted with all the political blame, still including no one It's all Big Brother's monetary gain. On a system that's corrupt and built on shame. Who am I? I'm a son, a brother, an uncle, a human the same. And no, I give zero fucks about any claim to fame. When everything is quiet, you hear who speaks your name.
I'm sorry. No. Thank you. Thank you. Is there another hand that would like to speak?
I had no intention of speaking. That's why I came in late and didn't sign up. I pulled over on a side street to write this, so excuse me if I stumbled my way through it. But events for the public are what made Depot Town what it is. From the first Heritage Festival in 1978 to the final Santa's tree lighting in 2025, both gone now. In that time, car shows have been a major part of it for almost 50 years, 100% volunteer with support from the city. Now all the car shows, in particular the world-class Orphan Car Show, the only one in the country, by the way, are all gone except for the Thursday night cruise nights. And it's a shame, and I'm not even a car guy. In fact, most all of our 100% self-sustaining events are gone because instead of seemingly taking the position of what can we do to help, this city, unfortunately, is making everything cost prohibitive with way too many hoops to jump through. As an involved volunteer since the mid-70s, when half of Depot Town was boarded up and people were warned not to go down to the tracks, I can tell you what you're doing is negatively affecting Ypsi's volunteer spirits, one of its most valuable and unique assets. And that's something that surrounding communities have always envied about Ypsi. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address council? Good evening.
Good evening, KJ Pedri. First, the data center, I support any and all opposition to increasing data centers in our area, including in the city of Ypsi and the Los Alamos data center in Ypsi Township. I hope you will be supporting the resolution from the township asking Yucca to put a moratorium on services for that, as well as supporting this other resolution you've put forth tonight. I'm just going to assume you're going to do those things. I'm just going to assume that tonight you're going to do all the right things. I'm going to assume that you are going to defund ICE. Well, call for it the best that you can from here in the city of Ypsi. I'm going to assume that you are going to follow through on this $1 million for a community responder program. I'm going to assume that if it has made it to the agenda after all of this, after I have been to nearly every meeting since October 2024, when I was handcuffed in this room, I assume that if it got this far, you're going to do the right thing and you're going to carry it through. And I assume further than that, that you are going to create a program from that that is community driven and meaningful to the people who live here, that is not just a copy and paste from the carceral system, that is not just a fix from another community that you're trying to plug in here, that is based in the work that has been done here to foster so many relationships. I'm going to assume that I am going to have to do less of this labor for free for the city. Like so many other people who volunteer for emergency crisis response here, I assume that you are going to do the right thing and take that off of my shoulders because I am tired. So I really just have, I don't do a lot of thanking you because every time I come back here, I'm talking about the next thing that's on the agenda. So I'm going to thank you preemptively tonight and say thank you for doing the right thing. Thank you for opposing the data centers. Thank you for opposing ICE. And thank you for supporting community-led justice in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening. No, no.
Oh, okay. Before I got up here, sorry. Early, could I get a, okay. Hey, Kat Layton, Ward 3 resident here. Just want to first start off by saying the three biggest mental health institutions are Rikers Island, LA County Jail, and Cook County Jail. That is because we are criminalizing and policing people who have literally no other resources given to them. Again, also this comes from these quality of life laws, similar to what we have here. I think we call them misdemeanors of public peace, I think, or public property, AKA loitering, trespassing, soliciting. Again, if we don't have a shelter for folks or a year-round warming and cooling spot, or we're investing in things that do exist, and instead we're trying to police them, like leaf harm reduction with the zoning laws. Thankfully, I do believe the Planning Commission has been working diligently on updating those zoning laws to actually protect harm reduction services, which is great because that historically hasn't been criminalized until like last year, I believe. Anywho, so all of this just comes from like the deinstitutionalization process because we had no good infrastructure put in place when we started deinstitutionalizing the state hospitals. So a lot of people with mental health conditions had nowhere to go. And then you started seeing these really amazing, just kidding, quality of life laws coming up where people were just being criminalized. And so I see the same thing with Ypsi Police, actually. I was the library social worker at the Ypsi District Library, had the honor of starting that program there. There were over hundreds of services being requested, and I was quite literally doing every day some form of crisis response or planning or negotiating or asset planning or resource mapping because people are not having their basic needs met. People are hungry. People aren't sure where they're going to sleep at night. And so just even trying not to bottleneck those types of resources for people went a long way. But then you would have some folks who call themselves resource police officers not know the full spectrum of what resources are actually possible and available. And quite literally have harassed people at the Growing Hope Pavilion that were part of the once, now sunset care-based safety skills training. So we do have an over-policing issue. I think Ypsi, your notes will show this when you get your data from LEAP. I believe it's like only like 4%, like a very small fraction amount of calls are actually related to what's going on downtown. We just have an over-policing. We have a lot of, like a large magnifying glass, if you will. And service providers did play a role in kind of creating this us versus them mentality and like polarizing the issue. So what can y'all do as our elected officials and like trying to help us by resourcing people? Thank you to those who are using the millage for public safety and mental health towards like actual social services. Still waiting for those answers from Reagan, the city treasurer, as to how some of those funds were maybe not so legally spent. So thanks, and supporting the ICE resolution.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address council? Oh, you're pointing, but I don't. Anyone else in the audience? Do you want to speak before we move on? You should. Your opportunity. You got it. Good evening. Tell us your name.
How y'all doing? My name is Austin. How y'all guys doing? But well, what I would like to say today is, um, just more helping with the youth around with the kids to give them something to do, more events and stuff like that. Cause like she said, most of the crimes that happen usually be downtown or where the police get called to be downtown. Cause it's homeless people just standing around, so that's considered loitering, and stores don't like that. And then it bring the kids down there because some odd reason the bus station just bring the kids all the way down there, and then they're getting harassed by the police. And next minute you know, it turned into a whole big situation. And I would like for that to stop.
You. You've been doing the work, so thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Anyone else want to address council? Gotta give a little on Mississippi. Okay. So seeing none, we'll close audience participation. I do want to respond to a couple things. I know Miss Yana left, but I also got some calls of thanks about the first responders who helped with Marty White, and just again saying publicly giving thanks to those who were really diligent in trying to find him and to support the family. And I will make sure, hopefully we pass those kudos on to the departments that were present. The Rosas, I'm so glad that your dad is home, even under these unfortunate circumstances. At least he's not there. And yeah, there are so many others who are not able to be home with their families. And the least we can do is lift our voices in as many different ways as we can, and as we did in the past several weeks, to support not just your dad, but more than your dad. Again, some of these things live much closer to some of us than people may know. I'm a first generation American, so I understand. And I have family members who've experienced not this at all, but the fear. I feel it. And everyone actually who came out in support. Again, we thank you, because it wouldn't have happened without, the advocacy of the community. We're gonna come up to the right next, the Ladies Literary Club. So I'll hold that. Duran, your question about what can happen, for instance, with canvassing in the meeting tomorrow, you should bring that up so we can talk about what plan. And the others we'll discuss during the resolution. So I'll save my comments to not prolong the meeting. So I think everything else is a resolution. So we will have further conversation. But thank you all for speaking. And I'll see if anyone else on council wants to say anything before we move on. We will move on to our presentations. The first being a proclamation for Storytime on the Move. Really, I don't even have the physical copy, so we'll have to sign it after, I think, because I only have it on the computer. Yeah, I didn't get it. Of the proclamation. So I'll read it. That's to not, I don't want to hold us up, but then we can get maybe a copy so we can sign and also give them a copy. Maybe have a copy for the team as well. Okay. So a proclamation for Storytime on the Move. Whereas the city of Ypsilanti would like to recognize a collaboration between the Ladies Literary Club of Ypsilanti, Washtenaw Promise, and the Ypsilanti High School Athletics Department that exemplifies the spirit of Ypsilanti and our motto of pride, diversity, and heritage. Whereas the Ladies Literary Club, under the leadership of Chantel Brown, connected with Washtenaw Promise for Reading Month in March to host an event called Storytime on the Move. And whereas the Ypsilanti High School Athletics Department, under the leadership of Athletic Director Danny Brown, engaged student athletes to serve as reading ambassadors, inspiring and connecting with younger Ypsilanti youth. And whereas the service and leadership of the following students were invaluable to the success of this program: Caleb Douglas, Sky Brown, Amoria White, Bentu Kaba, Destiny Webster, Paris Cameron, Cameron Newman White, Caleb Smithson, Maurice Shemwell, and Kyrie Reed. And now, therefore, we extend our deepest gratitude for this intergenerational, educational, and community-centered service to the Ypsilanti community. We celebrate these young leaders and their contributions, which reflect the spirit and very best of what makes Ypsilanti a wonderful place to live, learn, and serve. And it will be signed by myself, the Mayor of Ypsilanti, and our Ward 3 Representative, Desiree Simmons. And so we just thank you for your foresight and the creativity to include the students. When Councilmember Simmons, I'm sorry, asked about collaborating on this proclamation, I was happy to do so. Again, the youth are my jam. So anytime they're in the community doing things that not only strengthen the community, but empower other young people, that's what we want to see, right? These are the leaders of tomorrow. These are the folks who we want to be up here someday, moving our communities forward. And so these type of activities kind of go along with what Austin just talked about, right? Having things for young people to do that are positive in our community is the path forward. And Councilmember Simmons, I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
No, I was just I have the pleasure of getting to know folks in the Ladies Literary Club because my mother is a member there. So it was a pleasure to be able to move something forward when Chantel asked what we could do. And so I'm glad that we can recognize the young folks for giving back to their community, as well as for excelling as high school students and as student athletes. So service is obviously a part of all of our hearts. And so it's great to be able to celebrate that within the young folks of Ypsilanti as well.
Thank you. And so we don't have the physical copy right now, but we will get it and maybe get a couple of them to you so that you can give one to the team and then have one for the Ladies Literary Club as well. And we'll sign that. Thank you. Thank you. All righty. We're at the roads presentation. This very big packet of things. Well, hi.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Am I good? Yeah. I shouldn't wear these shoes. I'll wait for them to troubleshoot.
Okay.
Can I do that? Does it?
It's the okay. Oh, Bonnie's gonna help. Okay.
I remember to bring you guys hard copies this time. That was one thing last year. I felt really bad about that. It's all right. Sorry. Thank you, Bonnie. Okay. Very good. Awesome.
All right.
Well, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council and staff City of Ypsilanti. I've done this presentation a few times for you guys. There are some new slides, some new things to talk about, kind of bragging about what has been done since even the last time that we spoke. Okay, so our desired outcomes for this, just identify high priority road assets. Oh, and I wanted to introduce, I'm Rachel Jackson with OHM. I'm sorry.
We know you, baby.
Rachel Jackson with OHM, and I brought my colleague Jasmine Scott with me this afternoon. We left Kent at home this time. So, so Jasmine's been working in the city with me for over a year now. So her hand is all over all the things that we do here as well. The desired outcomes for this work session is just to identify the high priority road assets, review some of the projects that are coming up, road, bridge, pedestrian facilities, look at funding at federal and state level, and then create a sustainable plan. I think Bonnie's going to go into maybe like the budgeting and some priorities that council give direction on. Summary of what the city of Ypsilanti owns. There's 52.6 miles of road. Those are split into two groups, and they're basically based on what type of traffic is, how much traffic is on the road and what type of funding it is eligible for. So you have city major streets. There's about 41% of the city roads are city major, and those are eligible for federal aid funding, and the city local are ineligible. Another item that hasn't been discussed very much at council, but bringing to the forefront now are some miscellaneous alleyways. Those are all funded from your local streets fund. You have 5 vehicular bridges. You have non-motorized facilities, sidewalks, pedestrian bridges, stairways, and ADA ramps. And then, of course, your storm sewer, which the city owns within the right-of-way and on city-owned properties. And I like to make a note that YCUA owns and maintains your sanitary and water. Review of the roads map within the boundaries of the city of Ypsilanti. This is a makeup of city-owned roads and MDOT owned roads. I don't think there's any county roads in the city, and there might be private roads through developments. The way that we evaluate the condition of roads is called a PASER rating. And these evaluations are required by MDOT. It's a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being brand new, just got done, and then 1 being completely deteriorated in need of a complete reconstruction. These are assessed pretty much every 2 years. OHM with the coordination with DPS, we have historically done them. We did get them on the same schedule as of last year. So last summer, we rated all of the city roads. So all of the numbers are up to date in this presentation. Let's see. We also use a RoadSoft modeling software. This is connected to the MDOT system. This is how the city does reporting to the state. And that spits out unique trajectories of how much the city needs to spend. And we'll look at some of those graphs next. Is showing your good, fair, and poor of your major and local roads. Like I said, 10 to 8 is in good condition, probably only need preventative maintenance like a crack sealing. Rating is 7 down to 5. You might want to do some more preventative maintenance. And then anything under 5, you might be looking at some type of rehabilitation or reconstruction. And the difference between rehabilitation might be, there's a lot of different applications for a road rehab, but very common, as you've seen in the city, our go-to is kind of mill and overlay, take off. If you have 5 inches of asphalt, you take off the top 2 and then you put 2 more on. And then reconstruction is actually removing the entire pavement section. So you'll see that terminology coming through in here. Okay. This is, the next slide is your PASER rating map. So good is in green, fair is in yellow, red is in poor.
This is not a good map.
It's hard to keep them above 8, honestly. You'd like to see definitely more yellow on here, but yeah, this is the state of the city's roads at this time. This next slide is basically a visualization of your deterioration and really when you should capture the life cycle of a pavement to bring it back to its better useful life. You use maintenance, rehabs, if you have a 6, maybe you do a mill and overlay and now it's back to an 8 or a 9. The only time it's a 10 is if it's a new road. Even with a mill and overlay, I don't think you get back up to a 10. So you won't see a lot of 10s in your data set. This is why preventative maintenance is a great idea. It saves you a lot of money. You can see on the curve, once the pavement deteriorates to a point, it's very costly to bring it back up. So you want to kind of capture it when it still has like that middle service life. RoadSoft helped us out, this graph here. RoadSoft helped us put this thing together. This basically does some forecasting for if you spend X amount of money. It does not take into account exactly what you're doing. So, but you can see the orange line at the top is investing $2 million a year into your roads. And that that gets you up maybe to a 5 as average. Okay. But it does, as you can see, it takes a lot of money to bring up your average PASER rating. So your average PASER rating in 2023 was a 4.26. The 2025 is a 3.96. And we added the preventative maintenance level above a 5. You can do crack sealing, which will go into that preventative maintenance that the city has done over the years. And then rehabilitation over a 3. Anything under a 3 gets kind of dicey if you can rehab or if you need to do a complete reconstruction. But certainly a 1 is a reconstruction. And I think Bonnie will get it more into this when she comes out after this presentation, but historically it's always Act 51. The city gets approximately $1.4 million per year. This is money from the state that I believe is out of taxes that gets filtered to the city. It can be used on major and local roads, but it is used for snow plowing, salting, catch basin repair equipment, etc. And then there's surface transportation program funds from Washtenaw Area Transportation Study, WATS. A quick overview of some planned road improvement projects. This summer, we have Harriet Road reconstruction from Hawkins to Hamilton Street. That's going to kick off sometime in June, we're anticipating. 2026 road rehabilitation, that's going to be a just mill and overlay over in Washtenaw and Hamilton. That is kind of paired with a YCUA project. So kudos to the DPS for getting that coordination going. 2027, so next summer, Cornell reconstruction. This is we're calling it a phase 1 because we're hoping that the remainder gets done. But this has been programmed in Watts to get funding. Cross Street Bridge and Prospect Bridge, we'll go into that a little bit later, but those have been on the program to get funded. And Huron Street from Forest Avenue to LaForge, that one's coming in the future. I have a 3 million plus because there is a one-way to two-way study that that Bonnie's doing, the DPS director. And so depending on what comes out of all of that, the costs are quite hard to determine at this moment. Okay. So here's your crack sealing program map. So back in 2023, we put out a contract to do the crack sealing. It's basically just filling in the cracks on the asphalt pavement so that you eliminate the water from penetrating into the base. And this will help prolong your pavement life. 2023, we kind of started in the southeast portion of the city, and then we started rotating counterclockwise around the city. The red portion is supposed to get done this year. And I believe that the city is going to continue to do some rotating crack sealing. It's a great idea because after a while, it needs to get done again. And that will help extend the pavement life. Okay, shifting gears into the municipal parking lots. This year, the city and the DDA have been doing some work together. As you can see, there's a resolution tonight in your council agenda for the municipal parking lots that the city manager brought forward. So that includes the first 2 bullet points, Ballard Lot and Freight House parking lot. The Freight House is more literally in front of the Freight House on the municipal property. Ballard Lot is the municipal lot over by Ballard. Those are going to be improved this year, hoping in the month of May. So it's coming up actually pretty fast, couple weeks here. Later this summer, the Depot Town parking lot reconstruction. I did a little snippet from the plans. These are all upcoming projects, so I don't have nice pictures, and I didn't want to just put pavement with cracks pictures up there. So the Depot Town parking lot is getting a reconstruction, and we're planning to also do the North Huron parking lot and pavement markings. I know that some of them are very difficult to read at this point. Okay. The city has 5 road bridges: Cross Street, Prospect, Forest, LaForge, and Factory. These are inspected either annually or biannually, determined by the state. If it's in a better condition, it only needs it biannually, but if it's in a poorer condition, it needs to get inspected annually. Cross Street Bridge, this is in design phase right now. We did a preliminary design a couple years ago. Now we're in full-blown design right now. This is estimated at 7.4 million total costs. That means construction and engineering and construction fees. This bridge has received funding from allocations from the government and the local bridge program. This is going to be proposed constructed in the year 2028. I do want to mention that for the remainder of the cost, the city is responsible for 5%. So I have like some really rough numbers. If you're looking at the PE and CE is basically design and construction, oversight, adhering to the rules of reporting for the construction operations and quality assurance, quality control, observation, things like that. We're estimating that it's about a total of 1.4 million for the city. So the city's already in a design phase, so there's already some of that being paid. So it's not 1.4. From here on out, 1.4 has probably already been spent, or some of that 1.4 has already been spent. But it is a big deal because I think a couple years ago, we were all sitting up here thinking, how is Cross Street going to get paid for? And the city has done a good job of getting that money. Okay. The Prospect Road Bridge. So this one has the same need as Cross Street Bridge. This is a superstructure replacement as well. Sometime last year, we had to do a lane reduction on the bridge because one of the beams during the inspections showed that it was not worth the risk of keeping all the lanes open. So we did a lane reduction to alleviate that load. So the superstructure replacement is total cost 6.025 million. Like I said, includes PE and CE. The bridge also has received funding, but the city is responsible for about 5% of that. We believe that's about 1.2 million that the city needs to pay for. I know the city has also done preliminary engineering on this bridge. So we had all the backup documentation to go out for grants, which I think was a big help to get all these funded. One challenge of this one is that you're over the railroad, and they're probably going to be even more challenging than any other organization entity to get permitting and deal with. So you will probably see that that we'll be looking at coordinating with the railroad sooner than later. This is estimated to have construction in 2029. Okay, the 3 bridges that just had preventative maintenance and a rehabilitation, Forest Bridge, that was rehabilitated back in 2023. And then LaForge and Spring and Factory are one bridge. They had preventative maintenance done in 2024. So nothing like on the immediate horizon for these, but one thing I want to note, we do need to do more preventative maintenance in probably 10 to 15 years for Forest and Spring Factory. But LaForge, the beams are in poor condition. So I am told from our experts that you're probably going to need a superstructure replacement in the next 10 years. The preventative maintenance was great because we sealed up the cracks. We basically are trying to extend the bridge's life and not have it deteriorate faster. And then that superstructure replacement doesn't have to happen for another 10 years. Okay, non-motorized facilities. These are the pedestrian bridges for the first part. You have the Tridge, you have the Riverside Park Bridge, and Waterworks Park Bridge. We just inspected these, I want to say in like 2024 or 2025. I believe it was just like some wood replacement, things like that, and that I believe is taken care of. Nothing critical there. This one's just kind of like a show-off slide. This is currently happening right now. I think if you go out to Peninsular Park, Frog Island, and Riverside, you will see that it's taking place. So these are just parks, stairway, structural repairs. We did some complete replacement, and at Peninsular Park, we just cleaned up the earthen stair so it's a little bit safer. Some planned upcoming projects. The one that's happening in the next couple months here is the Frog Island Trailhead accessibility. I did put a little snippet up there. The city was able to get an MDNR grant to pay for this one, and that we already awarded a contractor getting them going. But that includes some ADA parking spaces at the north end, some bioretention for stormwater, and then it's an ADA sidewalk all the way down to the river's edge. And it will have a railing. It's all ADA compliant. And I believe it's a fishing platform off to the edge there too. So it's going to look really beautiful. Prospect Park sidewalk, Recreation Park pathway, ADA ramp improvements. These are all on the horizon as well. You know, the city always does ADA ramp improvements throughout the city every year, pretty much anyway. For infrastructure, this historically is funded through the Act 51. Additional grants can help address the repair issues per year. The stormwater infrastructure is located on city properties and within the city right-of-way. There is a new loan funding source that's out from Eagle. It's the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. I believe they've done this for 2 years now, and it's a low interest loan that municipalities can apply for. The plan with this is you need to have a plan. You need to be very organized, and Eagle makes sure that you know how you're paying it back. You work with a financial advisor. There's a lot of different forms to prove that you can pay back the loan. Just this past year, the city has performed some trenchless storm sewer repairs and in-house repairs and emergency repairs, and I'll get into some of that. And OHM was working with EPIC, Environmental Policy Innovation Center. I believe they got a grant and they hired OHM to do investigation of the manholes in the city. So that was really cool, and I'll show you some snapshots of what we got done there. The city storm sewer lining, we went out to bid, I think, at late 2024. and we were able to do some rehab of the city's storm sewer. This was already documented from other televising, so it's a trenchless technology option, and it's great because you don't have to open cut the road, less traffic control. They can do it. I think I have a picture of a truck there. They kind of control everything out of the truck, but it's a cured in place pipe, and it uses technology to give more structural stability for the pipe under the ground. It's like I said, no dig. And it extends the asset's life. So they say that this can extend your life for another 50 to 100 years. Manhole liners. I believe under this project, we were able to line 8 of the city manholes. Rehabilitation. This is referencing the 3 contracted emergency contracts that the city had to do this winter. The bottom 2 photos kind of show, you can tell that the road's deteriorating on top. Sometimes it actually completely opens up. It's unsafe. It's heavy equipment going over it, snow plows, just photo. It's repaired. A lot of the times it is an open cut repair, or it can be a trenchless repair. But because this was kind of like an emergency situation, the city was able to get a contractor to partner with them and get it taken care of really quickly. And the city has done some of their own emergency repairs as well. With the GIS system, so this is the work that we did with Epic, and Bonnie was involved the entire time. The OHM inspected about 2,100 storm sewer structures, and you can see the map here of where the GPS point. Oh,
It's not cool. We have no more.
oh. All of these points were GPSed, and we were able to do, we call them manhole inspections. So you pop open the cover, you take a look, you grab some data, this line is going that way, this line is going that way, and you start to track it in the field, and you track it down, get it into the map. One thing that's really cool is under the SAW grant a couple years ago, DPS was able to purchase some GPS units. So these capabilities are stuff that staff can do. So if there's a new manhole that they construct, they can use their GPS, take a note of where it's geographically located, and add it into their asset inventory, and it shows up on this map. Yeah, about 2,100 structures that they ended up getting to.
Rachel, what are the stars?
Those
It's okay.
where they ultimately end up in the surface waters of the state. So the city has an MS4 permit through the state, and they are to monitor and inspect their outfalls. They test the water, make sure that there's no sewage in it. The E. coli, that's a big TIMDL that they have. So the city is responsible for making sure that if they find any like illicit connections, anything nasty, oil, things like that, that they can kind of track it down. Stressful because there's a lot upstream, as you can see. So it can become like kind of a goose chase, but there are different ways like dye testing that you can try to figure out where the water is flowing and where things are coming. But yeah, those are the outfalls for the city, I believe. Are they, Bonnie? No.
So outfalls are not just where they end up in the waters of the state, but where they wind up in the waters of the
Okay.
county drainage or water resources.
Got it. Okay, I'm like, why is that one in the middle of in the middle over there? Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Bonnie. Okay.
So Watershed Council, we contract with them to do the outfalls just for the river?
Showing the dashboard that is put together under that Epic grant that the city is now going to have access to. And it's just so cool because you'll have maintenance workers out there with their tablets and they can pull all of this up online, click on an asset, have their map in front of them. They can see all the data about it. If anything changes or it's basically like a living, breathing inventory of your assets. So that's really cool. And this work started in January 2025, and we pretty much just wrapped up, I think, like end of winter, and then the deliverable, I think, just got over to the city with all of that. And I believe that they're doing some rehab estimates of the manholes. So there's a lot of data. I'm really excited for Bonnie to get a look at it. Okay, so additional items that you don't always think about that are a part of your road maintenance is trees. So this tree street maintenance is funded via Act 51. There's no long-term funding source. The city has applied for grants and budgeting for contractual trimming and removals in the coming fiscal year. I believe, Bonnie, you already actually have one of those contracts taken care of as well. So that's good. Next steps, just direction on the budget priorities. And I believe Bonnie is up next.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, of course. What questions do you guys have about that?
Oh, okay, that's the part. We're at. All right.
I've got actual slides.
Oh, but you want to know the question of the first part? Okay.
That was part one, but
Yes.
I have slides.
Okay, so what's questions for part one? All right, questions for part one. Member Chen?
I see that there's crack sealing on Cornell just before we redo it.
We're gonna take that off the list. So Harriet got taken off the list. Because obviously it's under construction. Yeah. Cornell, we're not gonna crack seal right before we reconstruct it.
Thanks for the presentation. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
We've gotten to the numbers yet.
That's what I was gonna ask about.
One technical Pazer question. So if you mentioned that the 10s are those roads that are recently completed, is it the case that every time we complete a road, it is automatically a 10? Or do we sometimes build to an 8?
What you mean by completed? So as Rachel mentioned, when we do a mill and overlay, which we haven't done that many of recently. Hamilton and Huron and Congress back in 2019. Those were mill and overlays.
You're not as good as
Reconstructs to get like a 9.5 plus. Huron River Drive, I would qualify as that was a 10.
That was a 10.
That was a 10. Harriet is probably going to be at least a 9.5, 9.8. And we'll look forward to seeing what Harriet part 2.
And I want to add the interesting thing about Pacer is even if you have a 3-lane road, you rate the worst lane.
Yeah.
So 2 lanes could look really good, but you are obligated to put the worst lane rating in there. So, and it might only be 20 feet that it's really, really bad, but you have to use like that supersedes the rest of the road, just by the way. So.
Yeah, good.
for the Cross Street Bridge. I think I heard construction 2028 now. Was that not 2027 earlier?
So 2027 is when we're going to be letting it. That's when everything is going to start on the paperwork end of things. But 2028, in order to maximize the amount of time we have to do that superstructure replacement.
Street thing. I know that you said you're in the full design phase now. So I know we had talked about this last year, but I just want to make sure that part of it, the design is lane reductions by increasing non-motorized transit and including the sidewalk and bike lanes, because that's and and lane reduction as well.
So the lanes aren't reduced on either side. The only way we can reduce the lanes on Cross Street Bridge is
having with like, you know, the road stress from the heavy loads, and since we're trying to go in the direction of less motorized traffic anyway, that would be planning into the future for savings. They're wide. Yeah, and they're discontinuous from other bike lanes that we have, so it'd be nice to connect the cross street bike lanes over the bridge through Depot Town.
Further comments, Councilmember King?
Oh, I wanted to know more about the alleys. Yeah, so right here it says alleys funded from local street fund.
So the local streets fund basically just takes in enough money to cover operating. Doesn't really have any money for capital and doesn't have a lot for alleys. So in Ypsi, there are basically three kinds of alleys. There are open and active alleys, legal speak. There's open and active alleys, there's closed alleys, and then there are vacated alleys we don't worry about. Closed alleys we don't even worry about. Open and active alleys we do maintenance as needed. So right now that's really only grading. There are some alleys, particularly in the downtown area, that need much more than grading, because they have been graded for the last 20 years. There's really nothing to grade. They are degraded in some ways. But that is a burden on the local streets fund and is
Investigation with all the little map. Those are just the vertical investigation, or is there horizontal scoping for that?
So those are vertical. You're talking about the stormwater, PSP, MEC. Yep.
We do have like, they have connected them as well as good as they can, based on what direction that pipe is going. Okay, you have a manhole here, it looks like the same size, and they're looking at each other type of thing.
Yeah. But a lot of times pipes do weird things in between point A and point B.
On the urban forestry, you mentioned that there's some street tree maintenance that's funded through Act 51. Is it the case that there is actually money from Act 51 specifically for street tree maintenance, or we can choose to use some of it?
The only restriction on that is that we have to use an average of 1% over a period of 10 years on non-motorized infrastructure. streets, all of our local streets, they are funded through Act 51 money. Fund 202 and 203, so major and local, are not subsidized currently by any of the other funds. So a lot of other funds, including garbage, motor pool sometimes, parking, those all get subsidized by the general fund. Major and local roads are not. We do occasionally get grants. Weird. I'll get more into that. We do get a refund of the Washtenaw County Road Commission's millage that is for road maintenance throughout the entire county. That's about $150,000 per year. We also have permit income, which is negligible, and Metro Act income, which is about $60,000 a year. All of those funds have different sorts of restrictions and reporting requirements. I grab my coffee while they. All right. Years to actually understand roads funding, so thank you for coming with me on this crash course tonight. So for our that is allocated via a formula. It is not competitive, but we also can't lobby to get more of it. We are not going to be penalized unless we violate the rules laid forth in Act 51. So we get on average about $1.5 million in gross income from Act 51. That has been going up over the years, especially with some of the potholes that they're expecting. I'm not sure if that's really been realized yet. We spend about $900,000 just in operations. So that is patching, that's sweeping, that is drain repair and maintenance, that is emergency drain repair that we do under our own forces. That is our catch basin inspections and MS4 compliance. MS4 is our stormwater permit that we have from the state. That's trees, that's kind of everything. Capital preventative maintenance is the investment that Rachel spoke about on slide, I'm going to call it slide 10, but I don't think it's actually slide 10. But that beautiful yet depressing graph where everything just kind of goes downhill. The 2026 investment analysis. So the last line that they drew here is $800,000 worth of investment per year. We are realistically not even here. We're investing about $100,000 a year. So we are going to get to the point, if we stay on our current track, it's the point where everything needs reconstruction. However, we are spending a lot of money in capital. So again, these are average numbers. We spend about $1.3 million in road construction. So that's projects like the bridges. That's projects like Huron River Drive and Harriet and Cornell. Now, those are very expensive projects because those are full reconstructions. Mill and overlay is often considered more of a preventative maintenance approach. It's somewhere, I don't know, the last few mill and overlays, extensive curb work, stormwater work, so I would classify them more on the capital end of things, but really they're sort of CPM. They're capital preventative maintenance. So that is something where, as we saw in one of the other slides, every dollar we spend on CPM saves us about $4 in the future on actual capital costs. So that's like income stream from the Act 51 state gas tax. We get in about 650,000 plus or minus on average. We spend very close to that amount every year in just operations. There's really not enough for us to set any aside. We've begun spending that $75K on crack sealing per year, more or less. More some years, less some other years, but that is helping us preserve our roadways. But it does not leave any room for capital. So it does not leave any room for mill and overlays, additional fog sealing. What was the other one I said? Like sludge sealing or something that I just found out about today. the other more aggressive capital maintenance items that would help us save more money down the road. So, next slide. When we get into the capital projects, we do have a variety of funding sources from which to draw. So we're using via Watts FHWA planning money for the Huron and Lowell two-way study. We have gotten a truly lucky amount of grants for the Cross Street Bridge. We've got one straight legislative allocation via the DDA, one federal level allocation for $250,000 via Dingle's office. We have formula bridge maintenance funds and $250,000 that is also shared with Prospect Bridge. So we have that legislative allocation, but then we're fully funded under the bridge program. Now, the fun thing to keep in mind with roads projects is when I say that we are fully funded, we're fully funded up to the federal match. With bridges, that can be as little as 5%. It's usually closer to 10 or 15. With roads projects, that's 15. So that's 15% of the construction cost. And in addition, we as a community are responsible for design engineering and construction engineering and oversight, which is another 25% of the cost. So overall, if we have a $1 million project, we're going to owe an additional $350,000 on top of that, plus $15,000, or no, I'm sorry, $250,000. I lost a zero somewhere. It's a lot. So 35% of the construction cost is going to come out of our pockets. There are fun and interesting ways to fund things, however. So right now, as I mentioned, everything is coming out of our Act 51 dollars, leaving us very little room for either CPM in our major roads or anything beyond the barest minimum of CPM in our local roads. So there's two types of funding that we can seek out. On one-time basis, those are ones that generally advance our goals or improve our infrastructure in one giant leap, like the Huron River Drive project that used federal funding, that used TAP grants, and that used HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program funds. We are looking at applying for some Safe Streets for All federal grants, using some technical assistance from the Michigan Infrastructure Office Technical Assistance Center. We've got sort of the outline of an idea, but we're still fleshing that out. We could, and we have used in the past CDBG funds. We've used those largely for the ADA ramps. So we had been doing the ADA ramps up to about $100,000 a year worth of those ramps under a previous lawsuit settlement. We were released from that settlement about 2 years ago, and we have not gone back and done an ADA ramp since, because there are other uses for those CDBG dollars. And most of the ramps that we were working on were either going to be incredibly expensive. So think about these stairs at High Scope. We could throw a whole heck of a lot of money at that one to make that compliant. Or we could say, hey, the other three corners, they're in good shape, and try and spend that money elsewhere. So that's what we did. We're currently using some CDBG fund for some sidewalk gap fill on the north side of Prospect Park. That was meant to do two things. That was meant to trigger an environmental review that would tell us a little bit more about Prospect Park and the steps that we would need to take to spend more federal money there, like CDBG. And an archaeological study. Unfortunately, they narrowed the scope of their studies, so we're going to be going out for a study at some point in the future. Then other funding sources. So it's relatively easy in the grand scheme of things to get grants for singular projects or things that can advance our goals. There's not really grants out there for plain old ordinance. That's something that generally has to come out of our office. So the couple of things that we have not done here recently, well, ever, actually, is look at how we fund alleys and finding another way to do that. Whenever I say easy, please understand it is easy in a relative sense, not actually easy. So the easiest one, the lowest hanging fruit there, is probably a special assessment for alleys. Alleys are predominantly for hyperlocal traffic on that block. So one thing that we could do was explore the prospect of a special assessment for those properties on that block. That would relieve some pressure on Fund 203. Relieve us from, having to delay and delay and delay work on these alleys indefinitely. But actually return some of these alleys to useful life, particularly in the rainy season. Then stormwater. Some interesting things have happened on the legal front in the last dozen or so years. And one of the most promising of those things is the existence of stormwater utilities. So City of Ann Arbor has a stormwater utility. What that means is that people are assessed based on approximately the size of their property relative to the amount of impervious surface on that property. It's a rational relationship between the property characteristics and the presumed use of the stormwater system. People are assessed based on that, and that money goes into fund the operations and maintenance as well as the capital needed to maintain these systems. That is something that we could look at. That is something that has recently had some interest in formalizing the creation of stormwater utilities at the state legislative level. So we are eagerly hoping that the legislature picks that up and moves that legislation forward. But there have recently been some precedent-setting lawsuits that kind of clear the path for locals to take on creation of a stormwater utility without necessarily having that enabling legislation. So it's a very valid path. It's a slightly steep path. It sounds like SEMCOG is interested in helping some local communities explore that. They're putting together a toolkit. I think Eagle is working on something similar, but not really advisory, to help communities understand the scope of. So that is one path. And having a stormwater utility would allow us to repay the revolving loan fund low interest loan that Rachel had referenced earlier. The other thing that the Drain Commissioner or Water Resources Commissioner does is special assessments. Intense. If the cost for an improvement exceeds a certain threshold, then the improvement is assessed to the properties that would benefit most directly from that. So it includes a lot of knowledge of the drain sheds that we are developing but don't currently have, and also an appetite for special assessments. Magic bullet. Both the stormwater utility could alleviate some significant costs in 202 and 203. We use that money for that capital preventative maintenance, as well as some of those more transformative capital projects. Same thing with alleys, but to a lesser extent. So it distributes the cost away from state gas tax and onto the local beneficiaries of the improvement.
Okay. I'll open the floor for questions. I feel like I saw hands on my left going up, but then maybe not.
Well, I just had a comment. I mean, it's like there's a presentation at MML on the lawsuits for the utilities, and it seems like, you know, resolving the two different lawsuits really opened this up to you know, part of the conversation was how to do this in an area that already has low income and high tax burden. And so that's, you know, incentivizing rain gardens and things like that will certainly help with that. But you know, I look at some of my neighbors, and at some point when houses were put in, they decided to run concrete all the way to the back of the property. And it's like, you know, people that buy those things and don't really realize what they're getting into.
A lot of data, a lot for us to absorb, but also a lot for, I think, our residents to absorb ultimately. And I think the presumption is that at some point we're going to think about putting something before the voters and say, here, do we want to tax ourselves and and fix some of this. I know plenty of residents who have talked to me that thought we should have done it 2 years ago, and there's a few that think, we could wait another 5 or 10 years. But you've also made it clear what the costs of that are, and that the costs go up as we wait. So with that, you and I have talked a little bit about the idea of putting together, I think, 2 or 3 different scenarios. What does a potential program that might go before the voters look like? It's my belief that we're going to need to have a long, detailed community conversation before we take anything to the voters, and I think that's appropriate. So my hope is that you and your team, including our consultants, can pull together 2 or 3 of those scenarios and say, here are some options, and this is what it will do for us as a city, and with an emphasis on some cost savings in the longer term if we do certain things in the short term.
My head is still spinning. I've been trying to become this, figure out these roads things with Bonnie since I've been here. But one thing, just in terms of thinking about, because I was going to ask about, thinking about what it would look like, the cost if we were to say, what if we actually wanted to get our Paiser just to 6? I don't know, whatever. Just an average of 7.5, what that could look like. So, but I know another thing I'm always thinking about or wondering is how we kind of decide which ones, like how we're moving them around, and so that might be something that would be good for folks to understand too, especially as, because it's like we could do however many major fixes at once, and when it's not in the area where people are, then it feels even longer, right? So I'm still interested in kind of thinking about what that looks like. But the other thing I wanted to just say too is just in terms of thinking about what we might go to voters or how we might approach certain things. I also want to lift up sidewalks, and I know that this is separate, but it's also the same. And I recognize that there's this responsibility with the homeowner, all this stuff, right? But the reality is the sidewalks are not also getting fixed, or not getting fixed in a way that's really like usable for everyone because of that. And so I know in some places there's different kinds of incentives or partnerships or things that can help with that process. So anyway, so that's something I've been thinking about a bit too, of like what something like that could look like, and just wondering if there's ways of, as we're looking at this, that we can also look at what that would be too, so that we can kind of go for all the things that are under our feet and wheels. So I just wanted to kind of put that out too.
Oh, we did put together, just for internal use, a synthesis of thoughts, shall I say, about what it would take to restart a sidewalk program. And the way sidewalk programs are traditionally done is a portion of the city is inventoried for defects, and then everybody in that inventory is notified, you need to replace your sidewalk. If you don't replace your sidewalk within a certain amount of time, we're going to do it for you, and we're going to bill it to you. And that billing usually comes in the form of a special assessment, because then that goes with the property, not necessarily the person. And it can be spread over, I believe it can be spread over a few different years. I know that can be done with PACE. Actually, I'll have to look into that with sidewalks. But that has the benefit of addressing a stretch of sidewalk at the time. It does also make it a whole heck of a lot easier. Not a lot of people are really good at concrete. And having a professional do it at a group rate can sometimes be a whole heck of a lot easier than
trusting everybody on the street to try and figure it out for themselves. So that is something that at this time we do not have any room for, of course, in 202 or 203. But in the past, that has been funded primarily through that special assessment. And it is something that we could return to doing. We would need additional staff, however.
City manager?
So going back to our roads, the amount of mileage that we have at a PASA rating that is not good, we would need to have a serious influx of capital in order to get that actually done, to even make a dent on it. Historically, we've been doing maybe a road here, a road there, and that's why we kind of find ourselves in the situation that we are in now. I believe our last roads millage expired in 2016. So there's going to be a time that we can no longer just go about it one road here, one road there. So this is going to be a policy decision that City Council is going to have to make. And I think from what we were just shown by Rachel and Bonnie, our road system needs a lot of assistance. And I think council and staff will need to begin on strategizing how best to voice that to the public and come up with some ideas in order to actually bring these roads up to a place where preventative maintenance actually will mean something.
I mean, I think that I would go out on a limb and say the community knows what the roads need. What folks want to know is how are we going to do that without additional burden, right? Or an increased burden. Because again, like we all know, we pay not pretty high taxes. And so how do we offset that so it doesn't increase harm in terms of the financial impact?
No, but that's one of the conundrums that we are faced with. One of the things that we're looking at that Rachel referenced was we're looking at doing some mill and overlay. The mill and overlay in the area that we're proposing is not really the recommended solution. So we're looking at Washtenaw from Hamilton to Huron, as well as a block to the north and a block to the south on Washington. That road needs to be reconstructed. We are looking at doing a mill and overlay because that gets us a little further. Because the other thing that we actually have to keep in mind with regards to roads and also sidewalks is risk. And I'm talking about risk in the legal sense because if there are, I'm going to get the law completely wrong, so Randy, close your ears, but if there are potholes that cause harm to somebody and or that we know about and have the potential to cause harm to somebody and we do not rectify them in a certain amount of time, we could be found legally liable. Similar for sidewalks, generally the rule there off the top of my head is 2 inches. So of heave. Yeah, so that affects our tree strategy to some extent. But then that liability makes the stopgap measure of resurfacing a road when we know that reconstruction is the right answer for the condition that the road is in a lot more attractive. It does kick the can a little bit down the road, but it keeps that graph doing this instead of doing this. So it's a trade-off.
And I think if voters are going to approve anything that we put before them, it's going to be based on perceived value. And I think maybe we should consider including some small segments of any millage. And by small, I may mean 1/4% or 1/2%. for certain things. And certain things could well be sidewalks, or it could be street tree replacement or something like that, that even though it's not a big part, it's still something that I think people recognize the need for, and there might be some value or reducing the cost of the sidewalk replacement.
Councilmember Simmons?
I just was wanting to go back to something that our city manager was saying. You were saying that there was road millage that expired in 2016. And I just wanted to try to get a little bit of a sense of what that looked like how long it was, And how many mills was that?
So there were two, I believe, one started in 2012 and the other in 2016. To get the detail, I'd have
Okay.
to look in, but I could get that to council.
Yeah, because that would be helpful just even for us if this is something we're looking to consider, to just know what it was in the past and what happened, like what we, because that was probably like close to when I first moved here. So anyway, so like what that covered as well, because then that will help give a range as we're talking about it for people to know what it would look like.
Further comments or questions for Bonnie or for Rachel?
Really quickly before I leave, so we are starting the area phase 2.
I think we got that.
Was that what this is?
Yeah, we got that.
Being held at Hope Clinic, so it is being held during Hope Clinic's open hours. They have very generously offered to host a joint meeting between the city and Yucca to help inform the public about the upcoming construction on Harriet.
How is that going to work for Hope Clinic and the businesses right there?
So Hope Clinic, as far as the businesses, Hope Clinic is kind of our first priority. So Perry School, we're working in conjunction with facilities people there. Yucca is going to be going in and doing their work first. Our work is not going to begin until Yucca's work is complete. So I believe that's after.
About ready to get this notification.
Just got this today. So
Yeah, we just pretty fine. Finished up the normal. They brought
Okay.
And we got in touch with the property manager for Hamilton Crossing, who is the same project manager we work with, or property manager, sorry, PM has so many meanings. The property manager for Hamilton Crossing, who's the same property manager for Park Home, so we've already.
Recorded like little PSA, so if they can't make the in-person, in-house, public meeting, we'll have something that can go on YouTube and explain like what the impacts are going to be for traffic.
City website so that folks
share it with our communications people as well as the clerk and city manager.
Perfect.
And then the only other thing, I was just in the alley yesterday, and so I definitely, would like to meet and just get more information, because even some of the stuff that I heard yesterday for me is a little confusing. So I would just like to set up a meeting so I can get the answers.
There's a couple of alleys that are particularly interesting and might be best served with a joint meeting between us and community services.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you again soon. Okay, we are at our first ordinance. Councilmember McLean, I think we have that 1461. Yep. 93 and then 92.
Resolution number 2026-093, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that an emergency ordinance entitled "An Ordinance to Impose an Emergency Moratorium on Issuance of New Zoning Permits for Data Centers in the City of Ypsilanti for 60 days be approved and given immediate effect." I so move.
It's been moved by Councilmember McLean, supported by Councilmember Tucson. City Manager.
Council, this is a second emergency ordinance to put a moratorium on data centers. The Planning Commission is working diligently but the initial emergency ordinance is set to expire on May 5th. So this will buy us a little bit more time to have the planning commission finish their work.
Thank you. Councilmember Fellows, no question?
I have comments. So thank you for that information. I do want to mention that we also passed a year moratorium resolution to set intent for what we want from staff. So I would expect to see that emergency ordinance return to us, so we can have the ample time to really get a policy that we can also get behind and support. I did get a new policy toolkit today from North Star Data Center policy toolkit. I've just started skimming it, but it's very thorough policy interventions for what municipalities can do and what state and regional governments can do as well. So I would like to pass this on to, the planning department, staff, planning commission, so that we can all review these policies and see what is the best approach moving forward. And so I see no reason to be urgent on this matter since council has already decided to do a year-long moratorium. So I will support this ordinance and continue to support it every time it comes back, and work with the community to create a plan for a local intervention that is strong.
Thank you. I will open the public hearing. So if anyone in the audience would like to address council on this proposed ordinance or ordinance 1461, please raise your hand.
Ypsilanti, that the public hearing for an emergency ordinance entitled an ordinance to impose an emergency moratorium on issuance of new zoning permits for data centers in the city of Ypsilanti for 60 days. Officially closes, so move. Or
Moved by Councilmember McLean, supported by Councilmember Tucson. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the public hearing is now closed and the floor is open for discussion, questions, comment. All right, pretty easy. Okay. Deputy Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you so much. Mayor Pro Tem, you have our next ordinance, 1462. I think it's 95.
Got them all. Sorry about that. Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the Traffic Review Committee has reviewed several traffic control requests and made appropriate recommendations based on best practices, engineering recommendations, city ordinance, and city policy, and whereas the city manager has seen fit to issue temporary traffic control orders 2026-01 through 07, based on said recommendations, and whereas the city manager recommends city council provide final approval for the traffic control orders listed above, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby approves traffic control orders as listed and adopts an ordinance entitled 2026 Spring Traffic Control Orders on first reading, and I so move.
Support.
Been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, supported by Councilmember Simmons. Hello, Bonnie.
I'm just here if you have questions.
Oh, okay. You want me to open the public hearing first, or you want to ask your questions? Okay. Well, Bonnie, we don't need you just yet. We're going to open the public hearing. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to address council on this matter, please raise your hand on the traffic control orders.
The City of Ypsilanti, that the public hearing for an ordinance entitled Traffic Control Orders 2026-001 through 2026-07 be officially closed. I so move.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, supported by Councilmember McLean. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the public hearing is now closed.
There's just a discrepancy between
The number?
06 and 07 on this.
Okay. Councilmember Simmons, I saw your hand first before.
Yes, so I have a couple of quick questions. One of them I think was answered in the earlier presentation because it was around there was one of the orders was around the bridge tonnage changes, and so was just wondering if those were increases, decreases, stayed the same, and then how often they're inspected. But I think in this presentation it talked about how often the bridges are inspected. But yeah, so were those changes increases, decreases, stay this? Well, obviously it's not the same because we wouldn't need the order change.
The Forge, the dual axle weight went down, and the triple and the next one up, I'm sorry, I'm completely blanking on some words tonight. Those two stayed approximately the same, a couple tons. The one on
I'm sorry, I just missed what you said. I'm sorry.
The single axle went down. The other two stayed in the same range.
Question, this goes to a different piece. So there was the conversation about the EV signage. One, I just wanted to say that the pic that's in I noticed this when I was going through my packet, but not enough time to ask about, it's a repeat of the previous one, so I'm not sure so we didn't see, I think, what we were meant to see, if that makes sense. But I also was wondering how many parking spaces are supposed to be for that.
So there's 2 parking spaces at each charging station. So that is a total of, it'll be a total of 8, all once Ballard is done. So there are currently, I'm sorry, more than 8, 10 when Ballard is included. So there's 2 in South Huron, 2 in North Huron, 2 in Adams, 2 on 3 normal, and 2 in Ballard.
Wait, was that 5? Yeah, probably, because you said 5, yeah. And then,
the one in by Sweetwaters isn't active yet. They're still finalizing some work with DT and permits.
okay. And then, my one I think was, so there was the no parking, 6 to 9 a.m., 500 block West Cross. And I was just wondering about like how many vehicles this might affect and when it goes into effect, and have people in the area already been notified?
So barely anybody parks there currently.
Mhm.
It's more just to kind of keep that street going.
Oh, okay. Further questions from Councilor Fabani?
Jackson,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows, Councilmember Tucson, Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So much, Councilmember, oh no, Mayor Pro Tem, you have 102. We moved it up.
Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the Depot Town Cruise Night is an event that has occurred every summer for over 30 years, and whereas the event is open to the public without charge, and whereas Depot Town businesses see economic benefit from the event, Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Ypsilanti approve the MOU with the Depot Town Economic Development Corporation to hold a cruise night on Thursday nights between the beginning of June until the end of September for a period of 3 years. And I support.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, supported by Councilmember McLean. If you want to start as you brought this forward, or do you want me to allow council to ask questions? Anything you want to say?
No.
Anything you want to say before we start?
We can take questions first.
All right, I saw two hands. Councilmember King?
First, I've never seen an MOU for something like this, so I just want to understand, why is this an MOU?
So, council members, McLean, approached me on how we could do this on a multi-year basis, and this is the cleanest way in which to do it. We'll be doing something similar with the Ypsilanti Little League. And that will be coming in the next couple of meetings.
I do have a few questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was looking at the contract that really didn't talk a lot about the funding piece or what fees would be waived. One of the things I've seen under responsibilities is it says City of Ypsilanti, number 3, it says maintenance. The city shall ensure that the area is clean and accessible prior to and following each event. I guess I just want more information on what that looks like.
So it's typically how it's handled now. We make sure that the trash cans are empty. It's essentially the same as it's been since its inception.
And I guess I'm asking that because I know it was some trash cans around town, even for Juneteenth, and they were told they had to clean and empty those trash cans, from my understanding. I also do a yearly block party on my street, and a few times I did call and I wasn't able to get the street clean. So that is why.
This won't involve a street sweeper.
Oh, okay.
And it puts the onus on the event holders that they must clean up afterward. And if they do not, they would be responsible for any cost to the city.
So should it say that we are gonna clean up? I guess
The way it says it makes it seem like the city is responsible for cleaning, obviously before and then also after.
Okay, I can make that change.
Councilmember Simmons?
Wait, were you done?
Oh, were you done? I'm sorry.
you could go ahead while I'm still looking. I did have quite a few things wrote down. So you can go ahead.
Yeah, because I had a question about how much trash is typically from this event, but I feel like we probably have that information since it's been going on for so long in terms of how much it typically creates. But the other question I have is the plan still for them to apply for all the fees to be waived 3 years henceforth, even though it's not named in here? But is that then the expectation that they will apply for all those fees to be waived, and that this agreement would, what's the word?
This agreement it's in place of the fee waiver requests. So it's essentially doing the same thing as the fee waiver, only for a 3-year period.
So it's to say that we would waive those fees for 3 years.
Correct.
Amount.
And yeah, what would be
The
the
amount not to increase. So this year it was a little over $3,000. So any increase would require review by the Department of Public Works Director and the city manager. And then if it was to a degree, it would need to come back to council for reapproval.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's interesting, and it's also interesting to hear that this is going to be the approach for other things as well. It's interesting to me that this is kind of a test case, I guess, especially with that, with that amount. When we look at these fee waivers, yeah, I mean, I think when we think about how much we've set aside for fee waivers, it's interesting that we would take a full third already out for the future years in one go. So, and then to know that that's going to happen again for something else. And it's interesting to me to think about like what things are being selected and chosen for those to not have to come back, even though we have other, events that do come also each year. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Councilmember Fellows?
I support what Councilmember King and Simmons have said. I wasn't expecting to see an MOU in front of us tonight, and especially I think I didn't come with the expectation that this meant that automatically fees would be waived. So I'm a bit concerned about that. Given that every other organization that has been, some of them running as long as Depot Town Cruise Nights, comes every year to ask for, city buy-in for their org or events. I do find it a bit like favoritism to say that we are choosing Depot Town Cruise Nights over everybody else. And I also think, like, especially with the issue of the test case, I haven't necessarily seen full consensus on council to say that it would merit a 3-year MOU with Depot Town Cruise Nights. I've been in Ypsilanti for 24, 25 years. Cruise Nights has always been like a presence, and it's never something I've had a strong opinion on, but as I've become an elected member of this body, I have heard from business owners in Depot Town and residents that have different perspective on utility of cruise nights, because some business owners say that it hurts their business, that they earn less during those times. And some residents have complained about some of the nuisance or unexpected street closures. And so I don't know if this is the right event to just do a 3-year waiver on. And I wish that my colleagues on council would have maybe previewed that they wanted to do this and gave some arguments so we could mull it over, instead of maybe doing this process that is, I'm going to say, wholly unexpected. So I would say you should delay it for another meeting so we can talk about actual fee waiver part of the MOU if we are going to forward with this, as we only have $15,000 a year for fee waivers, and this would be, as Councilmember Simmons said, a third of that budget. Seems kind of silly.
Councilmember King wasn't finished originally, so I'm gonna let Councilmember King finish her questions, and I'll come back to both of you.
So, with the information that we just learned, I would have, if this document came tonight, I would have liked to see the fees on here, and the fees are not on here, and we were just told what they were allowed, but I would like to see it detailed. So I would move to postpone this to come back to the next meeting, and that the document comes back with only 1 year, like not for 3 years. I would want it to come back for 1 year, and again, with the fees on the document.
To postpone this, right? Is it postponement? There's no discussion?
You can just,
That's right. That's right.
You're just tabling it till
Right, so discussion.
designated meeting date.
No discussion.
Oh, there is no discussion.
So I can't.
Oh, it's not, she said postpone, not table.
Oh, okay.
Tabling. You said postpone,
Correct.
right? Okay, so there is discussion.
I want to do it where, however, we can have discussion, I guess, yeah. But I definitely want to.
So is it,
Let me think about this for a second.
okay, would it be okay if we hold that then until we have the discussion and then you make it?
Okay, I'll
If we want
hold
to
it.
discuss if we don't know which one is which.
Okay.
Okay, you remove that from the table. Councilmember Fellows, are you okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay. Councilmember McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. So for the time that I've been on council and long before, cruise night has been something in the downtown there and the Depot Town area that has brought people from all over this part of Michigan into our city, where they spend several hours, where they bring cars that they've spent a lot of time working on, and where the people that come to see their cars spend money. It's exactly the kind of event that I think, at least, we ought to be promoting. There's lots of other good events too. I supported those. Maybe on the line as well, if he has, if there are some questions about the event. But what I can tell you is that number one, in the course of getting approval for this, he had to go and survey the business owners in the area, and he was required to get 80% support, which he got. The amount of the fees. So there's a good example of how we as a city, people don't necessarily think of us as administration, city council, but we as a city have been looked at like we don't know what the hell we're doing. You know, the first fees that this organization got from us this year was $25,000. And I said, that can't possibly be right. And to his credit, the city manager went back and checked on what had happened. We had some new people in place and got the right number down. This is an organization that comes every year, and sometimes they call up a little bit late. This year they called as early as they could and said, hey, we're trying to do this. We're trying to plan. It sure would help us to plan, and maybe it would help you to plan if we know we're going to do this multiple years. They suggested 5 years. We landed on 3 years. And so we've got people who are trying to do the right thing, trying to work with the city, trying to bring people into our community. And suddenly we're having a whole conversation. We've talked about this particular event in the past. We've talked about this group. And so the idea that this is somehow new and out of the blue is just wrong.
Didn't contact me.
It's just wrong. I think I still have the floor.
We're in Ward
I
3.
think I still have the floor. Thank you, Mayor. So I think there are my hope has been and continues to be that this in fact is a model for us to be able to plan and for other organizations to come before us that might make sense and similarly enter into MOUs. And I think that will help us to avoid some of the back and forth that is case by case by case that we have twisted ourselves into knots on this council over the last 3 years that I've been here over these fee waivers. And so this brings some predictability to the process, which we sorely need and which I think the community expects from us. They just want to know what the hell we're doing. And this helps us tell them. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilman.
Sure. First note that I have brought this up at least twice in previous meetings as proposed business, that this would be coming forward. The $3,000 is not a third of $15,000. I just want to put that out there. I do have a question for the city manager about the insurance needed. It says Ypsilanti Cruise Night shall provide proof of liability insurance to cover the event. We know what that is. Is it?
It's just general liability. It's pretty standard for all of our.
Is there an amount that needs to be put in that, or
what do we normally do for $1 million?
$1 million? That's what I thought it would be. McLean's statements about them trying to get this planned out ahead of time. Peter Church has been talking to us for quite some time. He came to us because he lives in my neighborhood and he's around the corner. But they had put this forward last year, and we have not funded them in the past. We have denied them funding a couple of years ago. They had asked for waivers and we did not give it to them. And then appreciate wanting to bring us back with clarity on that.
Yes, I think we did fund them last year. I think it was probably the previous year because it was kind of a rush thing. So also, I wanted to come back yearly instead of 3 years. Number one, because we know funding changes for different agencies. Funding changes. So what if next year they don't need us to give them a waiver? That could be part, that could be part of a reason we don't say yes to 3 years. And of course, there's all these questions because I have never seen an MOU for this. So it is gonna prompt different questions from council. And I just feel like it's so many things here. But it would have been good to also see the support letters. Councilmember McLean, you stated that he did go and Patrick, what's his name? Peter Church did go speak to the businesses. That would have been nice too, to see those support letters. And another question I had is, where are they? It sounded like you said Peter Church is online. Is he the one?
Just going to say, I didn't want to interrupt, but he's got his hand raised to speak when you guys have a.
Okay.
We can't see it.
Might as well just allow him.
You can make him yeah.
Not just yet. Let me just finish real quick. Okay. Because, yeah, that was normally one of the requirements.
Yeah. 1 second.
Then I know when we denied the request 2 years ago, that was a lot of the rhetoric. Even here today during during public comment, events were not stopped in Depot Town because of the city of Ypsilanti. And I just want to make that clear. We can help. We want to help. We want to see events, but I just want the process to be fair for everyone. And when I seen this come as an MOU, it was no funding amount on here. I thought it was problematic. If we're going to be doing all of the fee waivers like this going forward, maybe that should have even been said as well. But that's all for now.
Thank you. Councilmember Simmons?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, when I said a third, I was thinking about $10,000, but I'm glad at 15. So still a good chunk. And who knows if that amount, because that amount was actually a decrease from our previous budget too. So it could decrease again. I would say too that what was I gonna say? Yeah, I also I think it's great to have lots of events. This one obviously being something that is, such, the whole time of the summer, into the early fall. And, so it is like a lot of resource, but I mean, as a person who lives and goes to that area, I too have had people actually bring things up, and also myself have been like, oh shoot, you can't go around here. I mean, those are just little inconveniences, but just to say that, it is noticed and felt in that area a little bit differently because we actually have to travel through there. And it's not, and then it'd be this before, it was this and bike night. So it was also multiple, things. And it also brings extra noise during those times, also in the area. So given some other things like the gas leaf blower, just to name that people do when there's big noise things, that they do actually contact us because it is a disruption. And again, a disruption during a time when people want to be outside. So I just want to say that. And the other thing I would say too is I seem to remember from a couple of years ago too that then there was fundraising. I think that's the other thing with some of these programs, especially for something that is weekly for that long. I just wonder whether there's opportunities for fundraising from the community, that is participating, that does want it. Events sometimes have to fundraise in different ways or find sponsors. The city doesn't have to be the only sponsor. in order and in fact, like really this is part of when I think about when people talk about private public partnerships. I'm like, where are the sponsors that can help support this? There's lots of folks, there's lots of sponsors within the car world, right? Like we have y'all know I don't talk cars, but I do know that there's lots of car worldness. Where we are, there's shops that fix cars, like anyhow. So I just want to name that, like, just because I feel hesitation toward this, it's not because I don't want to support, it's because I also think that there's other opportunities, whereas some projects, some community events, might not have as much access to some of those other supports or funds. And so that's usually where I want to prioritize city resources to support folks that don't have other options. So something that has a volunteer team that has been going for 30 plus years, I feel like has options. And especially when there's a sense of like, this is really a community event, I see how Ypsi pours out. I see it. So I don't believe that there's not other options. I think this is just the easiest option. And I don't know that it necessarily creates fairness for all the folks that want to host things in this great city and in our spaces. So I just want to name that. Like, I don't think it has to be all one or all other. I do think there's other opportunities. So that's all I'll say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. What I'll say is that, I want to support community events. I love community events. I try to go to as many as I can go to. I think one of the issues with this coming forward, whether it was for cruise nights specifically or for anything else, is when we don't have the supporting documentation to go along with it, it makes it hard to have a robust discussion about it. And then it raises all the questions that maybe folks who don't know as much about a particular event may have versus someone who is very familiar with it and can already like conceptualize why they're asking or what they're asking for. And so I do think this coming back with the breakdown of what the fee structure and the fees would be, maybe information about, that 80%, the canvassing that was done around support for the event, anything that folks can have who don't really know as much to help us be able to make a fully informed decision. And I would say that for any event, because we've had other fee waivers that have come who have not had like the supporting documentation that we've also sent back before to say, we want someone to show up to the meeting, which I know Peter's on here now, but I'm talking about the actual documentation that we have doesn't have any numbers or anything in here. And if we are the shepherds of the budget and the funds, we should at least see that, so that we can make an informed decision. The church is waiting.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, well,
Okay.
with Peter waiting, yeah, it's,
I was going to say the typical rate process for procedure is that everyone speaks once before someone speaks twice.
Okay. Oh, Councilmember Tucson. Sorry.
So in the prior years that we did do the fee waiver for Depot Town cruise nights, I remember, did we in the past do like half on some of them, or am I mistaken?
On some of them, I don't know if it was this one specifically, but I know there are others we have absolutely provided half.
So if we're gonna run with since we don't have the breakdown of the fees, if we're gonna run with the 3,000 number, my question to Peter Church on behalf of the organization that organizes the cruise nights, would it be detrimental to cruise night happening? I'm speaking specifically for this year. Would it be detrimental for cruise night happening if we were to offer the fee waiver cut in half from that 3,000 to 1,500? Also, I understand that a lot of the events that we hold in Ypsi are geared towards, bringing people into our community. And I already knew that the cruise night definitely does do that by way of just bringing people to bring their families, bring their cars and things of that nature. But I didn't really know the scope of how many people actually get brought into this community until I started working all the way in Milford and people started asking me if we're having a cruise night. So there's that.
Can we give Peter an opportunity before we go back around? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. to answer Roland's question, since he spoke most recently, we have some things that are we have to pay, like the city fees. There are other things that we pay for that we defer costs from other sources that such as donations or support from the Greater Ann Arbor Area Visitors and Convention Bureau, for instance, helped us out a year. And so the money that we collect goes towards like the DJ for the music, the entertainment, and also special programming, like when we have WCC come and do some demonstrations on auto body and auto repair programs at WCC, or things of that nature. There's also some giveaways. There's a lot of kids that participate, and so we have little prizes for them. So it's maybe $1,500 to $2,000 that we spend on things that are outside of the city fees. So I think what would happen if we had to cover more for the city fees is we'd have to cut out some of that other things. And so, I mean, that's possible. We'd rather continue to grow the outreach than to shrink it, though. So I guess that's the best answer I think that I can give you, Roland, as to what we could do if we didn't, if we had to pay some amount of this. I imagine we can come up with it, obviously, because we have some donations, but it means we would cut out, some of these other things. And like in terms of the breakdown of the costs, Andrew has that information, but there is $35 for application. There is closure fees of $300 for 8 events, and that's $2,400. And then there's a security deposit of $500. So that's the total breakdown of the fees. If you add those together, that's $29.35, which is the total cost. Let's see what else. Oh, in terms of the people and the letters of support, Andrew also has those. Those supports, Michelle, were collected via petition. So they didn't individually write us letters. We went to them and collected their signatures. And we collected them until we got to 80%, which was what was required. But we had 2 more businesses online that were interested in signing, and that would have brought it to 88%. And I don't know if you've attended any of the DDA meetings, but if you have, to get any of those people to agree to that level of percentage is quite a remarkable achievement, I think. So it shows that, a lot of the businesses are closed. They're like styling salons and so on that are not open. And there's antique stores also and so on that are closed. And so it helps more of the entertainment directed businesses in terms of their money. I believe I'm speaking with people who were there in the early years of the cruise, that Thursday night was selected actually because it's one of the slowest business nights in Depot Town. So it was intended to try and bring some people down, which it does. What else? I occasionally hear from some residents that are annoyed by the street being closed. I think some of that has to do with how we communicate that the street is going to be closed. If they were expecting it, it might be better. And we can certainly work on together as the city and the event to try and make that more public, I think. But if you do this on Google Maps, as I have done, you will find that the actual time to go up to Forest and then go from Forest, from Huron River Drive to Forest and then over to River Street, as opposed to going through Depot Town, is exactly the same, because it's a long light at the railroad tracks. And they're all right turns going that direction. So I'm sure there can be in certain times and going to certain locations some delay, but it's not like 10 minutes or even 5 minutes. It's just a few minutes. So I'm hoping that people would, bring that into consideration with what we're trying to do for the city. It's much more than just the cars. Like I mentioned in my public speaking period, there is the aspect of engagement of people who may not know what is possible in the automotive industry, and they can learn that from people who've worked in it, some of them all of their lives, and they can understand that, oh, assembly line, that seems so horrible, but they weren't all assembly line workers. They were quality engineers or quality inspectors. They were planners. They were all kinds of jobs that are available. And we don't want to lose our connection to the automotive industry in Ypsi. Not only is it our heritage, but it's our future. It still is a future for people. And I think that in our own little way, we contribute to that. I guess that's kind of all the information that I think people wanted. But if there's anything that I missed, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I saw Councilmember McLean and then Councilmember Fellows.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things, and Peter has touched on some of the things I was going to say. But he obviously explained that they do have other costs. So it's not as if the cost will be zero to them if we were to give the full fee waiver. Secondly, I know that there are planning and timing issues, and that's the whole reason that they came to us early. So I really would not like to delay this in any way. They want to get moving, and the season is nearly upon us. And finally, I would just remind members that if you want more information, we get our packets a week in advance. We spend a lot of time changing those dates and deadline dates to get our information to the clerk, and the clerk to get the information back to us. And if there are things that we want to get, unless this is the first time you're looking at the material, you can ask. You got all week to do it. So, I think this is an organization that has tried to do the right thing. I would hate to reward them by chopping their waiver in half or delaying it in any way. Thank you.
I was gonna move what Councilmember King did before it, if you want to do that again, Councilmember King.
That was the only thing you were about to do?
I was gonna
Okay.
move.
Councilmember King?
I can go ahead and move it, but I do want to say just a few more things, just because. I'm glad Councilmember Tucson brought up half, because in the past, even this year, we have been doing half. So I definitely, when it comes back, I don't have to do that now, but when it comes back, I definitely would vote for it to be half. Also, I am so glad this brings people to the city of Ypsilanti. I was not going to say this part, but I am now. I am born and raised from the city of Ypsilanti. My family is from it. I'm born and raised from here, and I've been here a lot of years. When cruise nights has been talked about before, I'm from the south side of Ypsilanti. People on my side of town have said they have not been welcome years and years ago, and even in the present, because people that look like me was not allowed on that side of town. Even up until last year, when I seen some of the yard signs posted, they were not in Ward 1, the south side where I live. And again, people in that community have said to me, this is not just me saying this, people in that community have said they did not feel welcome at this event. since I have been on council, I've been to cruise nights. I enjoyed myself. So again, this is not me, or I don't think anyone on council saying we do not want to participate and help with funding and lessen the cost, but we want it to be done fairly, just like we require of every other organization that comes before us. So with that being said, I would like to move what I proposed earlier, and that is for this to be postponed to next week, come back with the budget, and also yearly, because again, we know funding changes for organizations.
I would recommend tabled so there's no further discussion because it's.
Okay, I move to table.
Support. All right, it's been moved and supported. There is no discussion. Please call the roll on tabling.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean,
No.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson. Motion carries.
Thank you. Well, it's 9:52.
Move to extend to 11.
Been moved by Councilmember Fellows, supported by Councilmember King. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Councilmember Fellows, you have 096.
Resolution to defund ICE and CBP, halt deportation operations, and protect Ypsilanti residents. Whereas ICE and CBP agents have violently arrested civilians, including U.S. citizens, deployed chemical weapons in residential areas, and shot at least 9 individuals since September 2025, 3 fatally. Renee Good, Alex Preti, and Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. And whereas the One Big Beautiful Bill Act gave ICE and CBP $170 billion at the expense of housing, healthcare, and education, while detention conditions have led to 37 deaths in ICE custody since January 2025. And whereas Border Czar Tom Homan has refused to rule out deploying ICE at polling places, threatening voter intimidation. And whereas Ypsilanti protects residents through ordinance number 1281 from 2017 and resolution number 2026-038, barring city resources for civil immigration enforcement and restricting federal entry to city facilities without a judicial warrant. And whereas on January 27, 2026, ICE detained Ypsilanti parents at a school bus stop, and on March 10, 2026, abducted small business owner and father Miguel Rosas Rios. And whereas at least 15 people have been abducted by ICE in and around Ypsilanti since 2025, and whereas more than 165 ICE deportation flights departed Willow Run Airport in Ypsilanti in 2025, yet the Wayne County Airport Authority refuses to halt them. And whereas the state of Michigan and city of Romulus are suing to block a proposed 500-person ICE detention facility near an elementary school. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Ypsilanti that A, council calls on Congress to immediately cease all funding for ICE and CBP, redirecting those resources to housing, healthcare, and education. B, the council directs city clerk and city manager to coordinate with local rights orgs within 60 days to distribute Know Your Rights literature in multiple languages to all Ypsilanti households. Partner with AATA to promote Know Your Rights on public transit and in public spaces. Develop an outreach and polling place operations plan to ensure residents can vote without fear of voter intimidation. Make city spaces free for related community trainings. C, the council supports the lawsuit against the proposed Romulus ICE detention facility and calls on the city attorney to explore amicus options in support of the plaintiffs. D, the council urges Wayne County Airport Authority Board to exercise its authority over airport facilities by reviewing and, where legally permissible, limiting their use for ICE deportation flights. E, the council urges Attorney General Dana Nessel to investigate the abduction of Miguel Rosas Rios, pursue legal action against unlawful federal enforcement, and calls on Michigan's congressional delegation to advocate for his case. F, the city clerk shall send this resolution to Ypsilanti State and Federal Delegation, Attorney General Nessel, Wayne County Airport Authority Board, Michigan Immigrants' Rights Center, Movement for Immigrant Rights Action, ACLU of Michigan, AAATA, Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners, Washtenaw County Sheriff, Romulus Mayor and Council, and Governor Whitmer. G, The city manager shall commit to necessary budgetary resources to support the clerk's office in carrying out this resolution, including printing, translation mailing, polling place operations, and staffing. The council authorizes up to $10,000 from the general fund for immediate expenses pending budget adoption, and I so move.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Fellows, supported by Councilmember Smith and Mayor Pro Tem. All right. Councilmember Fellows.
Yes, thank you to everyone that came out to speak in support of this resolution, to all the folks that emailed ahead of time. I have counted 15 engagements today between speakers and emails, so thank you for that. I also want to shout out the different orgs and that have been supporting this resolution. Mira has been advocating for some of these measures, as well as the ACLU of Michigan has been providing legal support. U of M Law School has also had their students look at this and provide legal support and review, and as well as attorneys from Local Progress. So this has been looked at by a minimum of 5 attorneys and a bunch of student lawyers, and they have supported this fully, and have also said that the prevailing wisdom around the stage where Ypsilanti is at as far as ICE intervention and ICE surges here, the next step is to do a Know Your Rights campaign so that every resident is empowered with the knowledge of what to do in a terrible situation in which they have to face a possible ICE agent and abduction. So this clearly lays out some direction for staff. I did get to talk to Clerk Bedreau before she left for vacation. She was initially concerned about some of the items. We talked it out, and think some things have adjusted in here per our conversation. At the end, it seemed mostly that what she communicated with me is that she was just not sure what the operations plan meant. And so I clarified with her that it's just simply an internal operations plan for the clerk's office so that we're prepared in 2026 and 2028. And just that, council or myself is not the expert on what an internal plan should look like, but we do have the ACLU of Michigan. A couple of those attorneys have said that they want to work with the clerk's office to develop those plans. So this lays out a number of advocacy things for our area partners, like the Romulus city government, the Attorney General Dana Nessel, and calls for actions that we can take here in Ypsilanti as well. And there's a couple things I want to mention in discussions with various lawyers is that this resolution simply asks the clerk to already act within the duties of her job, and is not an expression of advocating outside of her current role. And that this resolution is also an opportunity for collaboration. It's not to make people's jobs harder, but it's to make it so that Ypsilanti residents are protected, and also voting access and voting rights are protected. And so I look forward to connecting the clerk's office with those supports, and also providing some resources from city manager and council so that you're able to do these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from council?
To circumvent ICE using their airport. The language was interesting. It's addressed later on. It's not worth too much of it, but I thought that was the legal police force, right, with way more resources. But no, I agree with this is awesome. Thank you.
Further comments? Councilmember McLean.
Thank you, Mayor. Lots of good things have been said about expressing the horrible situation that we find ourselves in with the secret police force and the ongoing kidnappings. So I'm not going to go into great detail, but I will. I hear about this. I read about this like all of you do every day. But one particular case covered in the New York Times about a week ago drove it all home for me. It was a young man, Afghan refugee. His father had served as an interpreter in Afghanistan for American forces while they were there. This young guy was at his graduation, high school graduation, or he was going to be there. And while there, the secret police took him away. And he's 18 years old. He has a right to live here. It's under humanitarian parole. And that's what we do to the families of people who helped us. It's astounding. And it brought to mind Michigan's president, Gerald Ford, who took a really different approach as America's investment, albeit probably both ill-fated and probably misguided at best. In Vietnam was coming to a close, and Saigon was close to falling to the communists, and there were thousands of Vietnamese trying to get out of Vietnam and to flee. They feared the vengeance of the approaching North Vietnamese troops. And Gerald Ford felt a very compelling moral belief that he had to do something to help these folks. They had helped us. He was loyal to them. And even as he was begging Congress for additional resources, Congress was not budging. And in his power and some of those enduring images for those who are of my generation and older, you remember seeing the refugees fleeing, and many of them believed for their lives. And Gerald Ford stood by them and did everything he could. And his words from the speech he gave on May 1st, 1975. The refugees from South Vietnam are fleeing for their lives. They have lost everything they owned. They have risked everything in their flight to freedom. Many have worked closely with Americans in Vietnam. Many have close relatives here. These people are not seeking a handout. They do not ask that we be their keepers, but only that we be their helpers. To turn our backs on them now would be a repudiation of the finest principles and traditions of the United States. And I was thinking of those words as I was reading that story about the Afghan refugee who was being taken away from his own high school graduation. And I thought how far we have fallen in this country. And that in that particular case is just, I think, emblematic of how we have lost moral standing in the world, the chance that we will attract people to the United States for any number of reasons, to be researchers, to be students, to be tourists. The damage to our foreign policy. Who wants to help us when we do that to our would-be allies? That it's all just transactional. What do we need now? And so I'll certainly be supporting the resolution. But I think kind of a step back and thinking about Gerald Ford, and I know what were very difficult decisions that he had to make at that time. But he stood on the right side of morality, on the right side of history in that case. And I wish we had him back.
Further comments from council?
Because this has been brought up in different scenarios, the make city spaces free for related community trainings. might be, and I'm just curious if there could be any legal challenge to make city spaces free for related community training, say another organization saying you did it for them. Why aren't you doing it for us? That's one. Other than that, I don't have really any other concerns.
They said it's legal. I mean,
Are they municipal attorneys?
yeah.
They, the city's municipal attorneys, because I have some real concerns about potential claims of viewpoint-based discrimination.
It's not viewpoint based, it's know your rights information. That's not viewpoint based.
Argue with you. I'm just here to give legal advice.
Yeah. My response.
Thank you.
One of the, when, thinking about it, one of the things I was trying to think about was, with our current process that we have, are there ways that we could, obviously, I think for everyone, simplify the process, but what it looks like, 'cause I was thinking about like the time frame for, putting in a request to, us being able to consider it during a council meeting, and that in between that time, sometimes these things come up because something has happened, right? Like there's been someone snatched and now people are like, what do we do? How do we support? We need more people, right? So, and I don't have the answer to that, but that was one thing I was thinking about to get to this concern of like, are there ways of being like, okay, how we could help expedite or open up the process so that the timeliness factor can come in. And then also, even if we would identify a location, so whether it's like council chambers or whatever that could be used for those purposes, like even if we have that we can say, here's what's available, you can call to figure out whether, or however people would find out whether the space is available to know, so that they can help even like with planning in terms of dates or something like that. Like if there's a process for that to say, here's the space that we would use and here's how people can look at availability of it. So I don't know if those are things that could help with that kind of concern, address that kind of concern.
Office has essentially held one of those meetings at their property with Mira and Merck, not hosting it, but the sheriff's office hosted it and they were there to give information. So, if we follow suit and do it in a similar fashion.
Councilmember Fellows?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson? Councilmember Simmons?
Yes.
Councilmember McLean? Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. Councilmember Simmons, you have 097.
City of Ypsilanti, a resolution directing $1 million for a city-run community responder program and requesting county buy-in. Whereas on January 21st, 2025, the City of Ypsilanti adopted resolution number 2025-008, requesting county funding for an unarmed crisis response program and directing an RFP. And whereas the need for a community-based crisis response model has grown more urgent with residents demanding care, prevention, and harm reduction. And whereas the city must set aside funds to establish a community responder program for mental health emergencies, substance use, homelessness, and other public health calls. And whereas a 2-year budget cycle allows for proper funding, fund development, and phased implementation, now therefore be it resolved, 1, budget allocation. The city manager and finance director shall allocate $1 million over the next 2 budget cycles for fund development and phased implementation of a city-run community responder program. 2, program framework. The program shall prioritize trauma-informed, non-coercive interventions, coordinate with EMS and police via a clear triage protocol, and track reduced police involvement and improved care connections. 3, county buy-in. The council requests that the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners commit financial or resource-based buy-in, including direct funding, mental health staff, dispatch integration, or in-kind support, consistent with resolution number 2025-008. Collaboration and reporting. The city manager shall collaborate with the county mental health providers, harm reduction specialists, and EMS to continue working with LEAP to analyze Ypsilanti EMS calls. Be it further resolved, the city clerk shall send this resolution to the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners, County Sheriff's Office, County Prosecutor's Office, and County Administrator. And I so move.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Simmons, supported by Councilmember Fellows. All right. Who would like Councilmember Fellows or Councilmember Simmons, actually? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so just a couple of things I want to share about this, just in some conversations and outreach with folks around this. One is that it's been announced before, but I reached out to our rep, Jimmy Wilson Jr., about the Public Safety Trust Fund funds from the state that are coming to the city. Some of those funds are for roads, but 276,000 of the funds are for public safety. And so just naming that, and that those funds could go for something like unarmed response. And just to note that he said that those funds were supposed to go out with the revenue sharing payments. So he needs to still figure out when those will actually be transferred, when it actually will be dispersed. But our rep is on the case. So that was one. One thing I just wanted to bring forward as, one potential stream of funding to consider for this. And then the other thing is, I haven't connected with any of the county commissioners, but I did have a chance to connect briefly with the sheriff, just in terms of some support from the county side. Just to say that the sheriff's office is definitely supportive of supporting on the dispatch side, a few different things that would be happening there. Also, they're in process of working to add the CMH line to the non-emergency response number so that people who would call in would have an option to be rerouted to the crisis line, so that there's better integration with that. And also being open to thinking about adding like social worker or mental health professionals in the dispatch. So thinking about ways that could support some of what we might be looking to do. And then I know that everyone might not have had a chance, so I reached out to get an update also from LEAP, just to kind of get a sense of where they are, because, I know our hope had been that we would get this information for us to be thinking about budget too. And so they shared something that's like very, very preliminary. They're like, it's not done. And we're kind of like a little nervous about sharing it. But they did put together some slides just so we can have some sense of some of the things that they're looking at in terms of the type of calls that they were measuring. What percentage, based on looking at the details, would they assess as being eligible for being served by community responders? And then also to get a sense of like what it would look like for us to have And so they kind of also like provided a range depending on the different time of day, if we want 24/7 coverage, things of that sort. And one of the things, so, you know, and whether they propose this or whether we would take up to jump to 24/7 coverage up off the bat, that might not be something we would look at. But even with that, that might mean that we would need to hire up to 10 responders. So just thinking about that. And the last thing I'll just say, because of course, like as we get the more particular information, want to make it more as specific as possible. But the other thing that has been true is that once you start having a pot of money, money draws money. So just to also name that I think too, that once we're able to start getting funding, that also can open up other funding opportunities. So that's one of the reasons why I'm supportive of this in this moment too.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Fellows.
Yeah, where do I want to start? I mean, given that we're facing a 2-year budget cycle, I thought it'd be smart to start thinking about how we're gonna plug in our council and city manager priorities, of which community responder program is like number 3 on the list. So we can start moving towards making this a reality instead of a, you know, a promise, a dream, a visioning. And you know, the intent of this is to do fund development. We don't have you know, a protocol or a pilot in place for a city-run community responder program yet, but we can start you know, putting monies towards that. So it's a bona fide, yes, we are actually working towards this, and put one foot in front of the other to get toward that goal. So the ask is really for city manager and the finance director to look at our budget and also coordinate with Councilmember Simmons on that new stream of monies that are coming in to kind of figure out how this would fit over a 2-year period with our budget decisions for the next 2 years. And not to say that, you know, tonight this says we have a community responder program now. We do not. That will take time. That will take information from LEAP. That will take information from the community about what you want that to look like. That will take, you know, professionals and coordination at a regional level. So I just want to make sure that's clear, but that this is for sure a commitment towards making good on a promise that the community has been asking for a very long time. So thank you to the 9 people that came out to speak out about this particular budget amendment or a budget proposal. And yeah, thank you for the community for, you know, acting out in support of other members of the community that have been harmed by our current systems that do not meet the moment with our current needs. Thank you.
Comments, questions from council? Councilmember,
You go.
Councilmember McLean, and then I'll go.
Oh, so that the funds coming from the state are one-time state transfer for public safety. So that's not a renewable funding source. But looking at it, since we're not touching the Fund 205, the mental health and safety millage, if we could just, those funds could be meant for this program, they would just accumulate until after this study is performed by LEAP. It's going to take a lot of coordination with the sheriff's departments. I sent out what was provided to Councilmember Simmons, and they're drilling into the narratives, but it's going to have to be recoded. So certain things will go to different places, because right now it's the same code. It's just now it's going to need to be changed. The sheriff's dispatch provides dispatch for pretty much the entire county. So it's going to take some time. So I think if we just allow the mental health and safety millage to accumulate funding, we'll be in a good position to once partners from the county as well as partners, jurisdictions within the county, I think will be in a good place. Which the reason why we pulled the presentation of the budget today is we're taking a big chunk out of the fund balance these next few fiscal years. So I think this would be the most sustainable way to fund this.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm is possible paths forward that have been expressed, but none of those are actually in this resolution. This resolution, as I read it, sets aside $1 million there, and in effect preempts the budget process and says budget process go forward, but with this caveat, this one's already been carved out, this one's already been set aside. I think a discussion about this should be part of the budget. I hope it is part of the budget. I think it's totally appropriate to be part of the budget, and I even have some cause for optimism that when we finish the budget, there's room to have serious forward movement on something that people have been talking about for a good long time. So, but I am hard pressed to understand how we give the sort of blank check when we just a couple resolutions ago quibbled about not having enough information included for a $3,000 fee waiver, and we've got a blank check for $1 million here. That doesn't seem like proper oversight to me.
Thank you. Councilmember Simmons?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think I would say one thing I think of as different is that we're trying to put money aside for the city to use as opposed to another group. And it's also for a service that is evidence-based as a need and has had an extreme amount of public support and conversation. So I think that that's a little bit of a difference. I think about the ways that we have set aside, whether it be to create a position or a department in advance to set a goal to work toward. And this is something that we've already voted on as a body to prioritize in the top 3 priorities for multiple years. And I think the thing that has been missing has been allocations. And so once we get the plan, or once we have something that we'll need some funds to be able to pull from to start implementation. And then the other thing I just wanted to say in terms of the mental health and public safety funds, that I just want to think about this a little bit more. The reason I originally raised my hand was to say that I see those funds as being such a good opportunity for participatory budgeting, which I think could include for sure unarmed response. But I don't know if that is going to be the best overall source, especially because that funding is also not promised. It's just based on, it's based on being voted on every so many years. So, whether that is the best and only source of funding for this. Yeah, that's it.
put goals in the budget every year for the last 5 years for an unarmed response. Kat would say that I haven't been as committed as I think I am, but I appreciate her commentary and her notification about the funding from the millage. And so I think that's a perfect spot to start with. The lack of detail here in terms of where this is coming from and the other information gives me pause on this for sure. $1 million ask without that accounting is problematic for me. I would move to table this to a forward that is appropriate for the budget conversation on this.
One question for the city manager.
We're not allowed to debate with the table.
Are you willing to remove that?
We have a motion on the
We're voting on the table. Is it?
Unless,
Okay.
unless they're willing.
Pro Tem, are you willing to remove it so I can ask my question?
No.
Oh, okay, wow. Please call the roll.
Okay. Councilmember Tucson?
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons? Councilmember McLean?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows?
No.
Motion carries.
Wait,
No, you
we had two passes.
To pass over to
You
the.
have to go back. You go back.
Yeah, oh, you,
Councilmember
sorry.
King.
I'm sorry. So Councilmember Simmons?
Number Tucson, you have our consent, which is 9-8 and 9-9.
Yes, I do. So resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that the following items be approved. Number one, resolution number 2026-098, approving the minutes of the regular meeting of April 14, 2026. And number two, resolution number 2026-099, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign the extension agreement for the Washtenaw County Dispatch contract, subject to the approval of the city attorney. And I so move.
Moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon. Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Simmons? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember McLean?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon? Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'm sorry, everybody. I did that. I forgot it was a consent. I did it out of order. Anywho, Councilmember Tucson, you have 100.
Indeed, I do. All right, so resolution number 2026-100, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the YDDA passed a resolution recommending that the City of Ypsilanti award a contract for the City of Ypsilanti municipal lots rehabilitation to Somerset Paving for the total of $191,950, and whereas the YDDA has changed the scope of the Ballard Street lot to a full reconstruction, increasing the total cost being $22,250, and now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council approves the change order for the municipal lots rehabilitation to Somerset Paving for the total cost of $114,200, with the DDA reimbursing the city for up to $204,200, and authorizes the city manager to sign the change order on the city's behalf, and I so move.
Support.
Then moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Councilmember King.
Council, this is a change order from a previously approved contract. The DDA is funding the rehabilitation of both the Ballard Street and the Freight House parking lots. This is a change order for the Ballard lot to have a complete reconstruction. So that's why it's an increase of $22,000, and that is reflected in your RFO.
All right. Questions or comments from council? Mayor Pro Tem.
My one question for taking this off of the consent agenda was the language here. And so DDA reimbursing the city for up to $204,200. Is it exactly $204,200? And how do we go through this and not have them pay 50 cents?
Well, it depends on what the contract finishes at. So if they come under, they're not going to give us directly $204,000. We approve contracts this quite often where it's up to. So they would pay for the entirety of the project aside from the $10,000 that in the initial resolution, the city would be.
Further comments, questions from council about this? Unless you weren't done, Mayor Pro Tem.
No, that was all. There's certain things about the DDA that
All right. Going once or going twice. Please call the roll.
Councilmember McLean,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows, Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Councilmember McLean, you have 101.
Resolution 2026-101, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti. Whereas the City of Ypsilanti operates a building department for the issuance of building permits, inspections, and plan review through the city. And whereas Carlisle Wortman Associates, Inc. has provided building inspection, trade inspection, and commercial plan reviews services to the city since May 1st, 2024. And the city has had no issues with the quality of services provided. And whereas the city employs a qualified building official who manages building department operations. And whereas staff recommends renewal of the consulting services agreement for inspection and plan review services through April 30th, 2028 at the rate set forth in the proposed agreement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council approves the building department consulting services agreement with Carlisle Wortman Associates, Inc. for building inspection, trade inspection, and commercial plan review services for the term through April 30th, 2028 to be approved as to form by the city attorney and signed by the city manager. I so move.
Support.
Been moved by Councilmember McLean and supported by Councilmember Simmons and Tucson. Joe, what do you have for us?
Good evening, council. After our last year's discussion on this, I decided to add more data to it. So there is kind of how much we've spent, what we think we're going to spend, and how the numbers actually break down and how many inspections we have. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
I'm gonna have to relog in. I will say, as this is logging me back in, that I did appreciate that because one of my questions, I was like, wow, the information answers it. So thank you. One of the questions I have is that this is kind of twofold. One is around how long how long was there overlap in the co-employment services with the hiring of our own qualified building inspector and Jerry Dunham? And also when looking at this total amount, what was the proportion of that was the co-employment? So when I'm looking at each year over year, I mean, it's still going up. There doesn't seem like there's any reduction for that, for not having that service. So
when we hired Mr. Dunham, we did not know that he was, the job description was preferred to be a building official. It was not a requirement. And for 20 years before that, we did not have a qualified building official. So for the first year, We wanted to rebuild our department, be able to get our inspections in order. And then around the beginning of 2025, there was a little bit of gap, a little bit of overlap where we still had them as building official services and we had Mr. Dunham. With that said, building inspections because his job is to be the building official and run the department. So the vast majority of the building inspections have always been done by Carlisle Wortman, and before that with Pittsfield Township. And so the overlap costs would probably be about 3 or 4 months, about $4,000, because it was $1,000 a month in the building official overlap services. Even though Mr. Dunham was a qualified building official, he was not acting in that capacity until about January, February 2025. May 1st of 2025, that $1,000 a month fee went away. Well, there was a little bit of overlap there. It was really needed though in that case. What this contract allows, and some of the additional costs are, let's say Mr. Dunham has to go on medical leave. Let's say he goes on a round the world trip for 4 weeks and takes a leave of absence. This allows us to have somebody in place to actually take over that role, so there's no lapse in our services unless we have to. We don't pay for, the only thing we pay for on a routine basis from Carlisle Wortman is building inspections.
And so, thank you. That's helpful. Because it sounds like, because I figured like I'm not like against overlap, please, but just to say that it seems like it wasn't that it continued until this part. It had that part of the service has not been charged since you said May
of 2025. So at almost a full year is when the building official services went away. So that was the last contract we no longer paid for building official services.
Okay. And so then when looking at this chart, that was the other thing, was just like what proportion of what we were paying was for those services that we no longer need, because I'm not seeing that in the.
So because we got rid of the building official services contract last year, I did not put that in this budget. So this is just the cost for inspections per inspection based on the per inspection.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize for my not fully understanding it.
Okay, thank you. I get it.
The costs are going up, as all costs go up. Unfortunately, when it comes to building officials and building inspections, they're done via automobile, which is something that needs gas, and so those go up. All costs are increasing, but these are within line. This also does not affect the general fund budget whatsoever. The building department budget is in its own separate, and it's required to fund itself.
Yes.
These fees are like our other fees. They cover our costs, and that's it.
And sometimes there's some underages, but the building department cannot lose money. That's what the state statute.
From council?
Member King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Simmons, you have 103.
Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the City Council of the City of Ypsilanti recognizes that pollinators are integral to pollination and survival of a diverse array of plant life, including both ornamental and utilitarian plants. Whereas pollinator populations and water resources are threatened due to habitat loss, pathogens, parasites, and irresponsible use of pesticides. Whereas research suggests that bees and other pollinators make use of less intensively maintained lawn spaces. Whereas reduced frequency of mowing has been shown to direct to have direct and indirect benefit to pollinator species. Whereas the city of Ypsilanti is committed to its designation as Bee City, the mission of Bee City USA is to galvanize communities to sustain pollinators responsible for the reproduction of almost 90% of the world's flowering plant species by providing them with habitat, healthy habitat, rich in a variety of native plants and free to nearly free of pesticides. Therefore, be it resolved that the city manager shall encourage property owners to reduce mowing frequency and to maintain lawn heights between 6 and 12 inches on their properties during the months of April and May, and to mow lawns no lower than 3 inches throughout the year. Resolved that city manager shall encourage property owners to mulch grass clippings and leaves into their lawns in lieu of using pesticides and fertilizers where appropriate. Resolved that the city manager shall direct staff to not issue correction notices for lawn grass and weed violations under 12 inches for the month of May, permitting all residents to voluntarily delay lawn care until June, allowing pollinator species to emerge and early flowering grasses and flowers to establish, which may result in ground cover exceeding established ordinance height restrictions. Resolved that the Sustainability Commission study and recommend policies for City Council to consider that would promote pollinator health across the whole year. Resolved that the city manager shall instruct the Department of Public Services to mow city-owned lawns and properties no lower than 3 inches throughout the year. And I so move.
Moved by Councilmember Simmons, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Councilmember McLean?
Thank you, Mayor. I get a question about this all the time. The question's pretty simple. Does this work? Does it really work? So if anybody wants to answer that, I'd hear it. But a more specific question about the other reaction to this that we do each year is that it confuses people. So in the event that we have a rainy May and grass grows and people don't cut it, and they think they're doing the right thing, and their grass grows to 13 inches. Could we cite them? Would we cite them?
So this resolution is in line with our ordinances. Anything above 12 inches would be cited. And then DPW already only mows to 3 inches. In the past, code enforcement just hasn't really written citations during the month of May, but this is all in line with our ordinances currently. If anything gets really out of hand, then we would write them a citation, but the ordinance allows grass to grow to 12 inches. That's already DPW's practice to mow to 3 inches. So this doesn't change staff's behavior.
And also just to note, just to name again, as has been done, enforcement for it honestly doesn't even start until like the last week of May. So honestly, like this is why in this resolution, not only do I send it for April and May, but also note that what I would prefer, I mean, each time I bring this forward, it's because people ask me to. My preference would actually be that we have an overall pollinator policy, because there's actually things that we can do at other times of year, not only in May, to support pollinators, and that it's something that we don't have to do each year. We actually just have like, this is what it is. So that would be that's my overall preference, which is why this included sending it to the Sustainability Commission to actually put forward some suggestions, which they have in the past, I will say. But I think that if we can work alongside them, that we can actually have something that is more full, and that then takes into it, that then is also impacting other policies, like for instance, the pickup of lawn care, things of that sort, I would see also being impacted by having a policy that's looking at something that's more holistic. In terms of the question of does this work, I would say based on my own experience and the experience of other folks who are doing different things with their lawns, that we can name that we see the fruits of that labor. seeing both in terms of the vitality, and I can see it very specifically, the differences between what's happening in my lawn and area and what happens in my neighbors who uses pesticides and all kinds of things. And I can say in terms of seeing how much the vitality of our lawn space has been since before we were doing this, when it was actually managed in a different way. So I would say the proof is in the pudding in terms of what I can see in terms of my own personal experience, as well as seeing it within other spaces where people similarly, newer residents have done different things with their lawns and have been able to see different changes, both in terms of what's growing, the health of the grass, but also in terms of seeing all kinds of pollinators, not only bees. This name's bees because of the bee city. But really, when talking about pollinators, we're talking about more than just bees. And those are the ones that also tend to live in the hollow parts of plants over the winter and things of that sort. So there are many pollinators that would benefit from different human practices.
Thank you. Councilmember Gray.
Councilmember, appreciate those comments. I like the idea about the broader, more inclusive steps that could be taken in the guidance that we might provide to residents. So I'll support this tonight, but I would support that more.
Anything further? Mayor Pro Tem?
I just similarly, I've been doing this with my lawn for years, and there's a lot of things under 4 inches that maintain pollinators even after the mowing. But and most times, my yard is over a foot long by now. So it's a difficult thing to do for another month to keep it that way, but I do, and my yard is. I agree. We should have
All right.
We will if we pass. Let's do it.
Anything further? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember McLean, and Councilmember King. Motion carries.
All right, Councilmember King, you have 104.
Whereas on April 28th, 1971, the Occupational Safety and Health Act OSHA went into effect, promising every worker the right to a safe job. And whereas every year on April the 28th, communities and work sites around the world honor friends, family members, and colleagues who have been killed or injured on the job. And whereas the U.S. Department of Labor and the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics estimate that Michiganders have died while on the job at an average rate of 147 people per year over the past decade. And whereas the 2024 National Census of fatal occupational injuries found a worker died every 99 minutes from a work-related injury. And whereas it is appropriate to honor the memory of courageous and dedicated members of Michigan's labor force who have been injured or disabled or have died as a result of workplace accidents. Whereas we remember those who have died in workplace catastrophes, suffered occupational-related diseases, or have been injured due to dangerous conditions. And whereas recognition of integrity of Michigan's workforce and its achievements on behalf of the economic growth of our state is necessary. And whereas the City Council of the City of Ypsilanti wishes to pay tribute to the workers who have died or been injured or disabled in workplace accidents, we honor the contributions of Michigan's workforce and call for increased workplace safety. And whereas the City Council of the City of Ypsilanti renews our efforts to seek stronger workplace safety and health protections, better standards and enforcement, and fair and just compensation. And by rededicating ourselves to improving safety and health in every city workplace. Now, therefore, be resolved that the members of this legislative body declare April 28th, 2025 as Workers' Memorial Day in the City of Ypsilanti. I so move.
And moved by Councilmember King, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. That should be 2026.
Did I read it wrong?
No, that's what was written. But it should, yeah, thank you. All right, any discussion on this? Oh,
I just got a comment. Yeah, so every night at work we discuss safety on the job, and safety is our number one factor. And we just get the reports of how many people's lives are either changed or taken away in the work. I think, if I'm not mistaken, for the year so far, we're at like 11 or 12 that we've talked about at work, different cases. So yeah, I'm in full support.
thank you. Anything else? Oh, city manager.
If I can mention one individual, there is a DPW worker in Huntington Woods that during one of the windstorms some weeks ago, a tree branch fell and unfortunately he lost his life. He had a daughter. Also, many road workers are lost per the year. It's DPW, our other public safety. They're dangerous jobs, and I like that this is the second year we've done this, and I think it's an important thing to just to highlight those individuals that lost their lives.
Absolutely. Thank you, city manager. Agreed. I mean, they do the work that attempts to keep us safer, and by keeping us safe, put themselves at risk and even, lose their lives in the line of service for us. So absolutely support this and continue to bring this forward every year. Thank you. Anything? Please call.
Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Fellows?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson?
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons?
Yes.
Councilmember McLean?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Move to extend to 11:30.
All right, it's been moved to extend to 11:30.
There's like 3 more things on the agenda.
Yes, I support.
We're almost, that was almost.
I know, we're so
All right. It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
I did not hear
I
enough.
wanted to get us started.
All in favor? I only heard 2.
You gotta go with the explanation.
Any nays?
Oh.
Hey.
Oh my God. 1, 2, 3.
It may not be.
You vote.
Oh, I get to say what
Keep going with the meeting until 11.
It's 3-3 right now. It fails.
Oh, good. All right. Yeah. So what does that mean? We're back at 10:53. Okay, so we need either another motion or we're gonna be done at 11.
Move to extend at 11:15.
Is it a motion? Support. It's been supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it just failed again. We're gonna go to the next discussion item. We're gonna try this again. All right, I'll be brief. Because I asked the city manager to put this on the agenda around the Ypsi Township's resolution that they recently passed at their special meeting. During this meeting, I received an email from I'm assuming the organization's attorney that was addressed to the YCUA board, and we were CC'd on it for information, myself and our city attorney. I don't know if he's had a chance to look at that yet, but I will be sharing this with everyone. I would like to have a conversation. I brought this forward before even knowing about this for us to just think about what we wanted to do in terms of if we wanted to bring a similar resolution or the same resolution forward. This email, I think we should discuss. And I'll just keep it at that because we don't have a lot of time. Councilmember Fellows.
Yeah, I mean, goofy that we're not extending. It's a goofy council we have here. But yeah, in the short remaining time that we have to do a democratic process, I do think we should sign on to this resolution tonight so that the Yucca board tomorrow has both the township and the city support.
Thank you.
Was that a motion? Maybe we could vote real quick.
You want to move it, Councilmember King?
I move, I move that we support this.
Support. Well, did you already support?
Support. Yeah.
It's been moved and supported that we support this letter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, discussion. Councilmember McLean?
What?
Apparently, this letter.
We want to like see if
township
we can
board.
like sign on to it to go because
Resolution that they have already.
Resolution.
One that they already passed, yes. That I was
In the
there.
packet.
Yeah, theirs is in the packet. The email that I'm addressing is not, that I got tonight is not. From the attorney. So I was hoping to share that with you all before making a decision, because there is information here we should know before making that decision.
Okay.
But we
don't have time.
We can't. So,
Yeah.
And it's legal stuff. So. Anyway, Councilmember McLean.
Oh.
So should I remove it?
At 8:45 p.m.
Yeah, it came 8:45 p.m. Yeah, it came during this meeting. But there is a motion on the table.
Oh, I'm willing to remove it because I definitely want to know the information that we don't know.
Yeah. Yes. You removed your motion. Did you remove your support?
I suppose if there's more legal information out there, but yeah, just generally, I mean, something coming later doesn't really make sense if they're discussing it tomorrow, but.
All right, it's 10:57, so. Councilmember McLean?
Question whether there's a motion or not. But I guess this is to council. I know you're not the council for YCUA, but do you know if they have the legal authority to not provide services to someone within their jurisdiction? And if so, on what basis?
I think it would be inappropriate for me to publicly speak on that particular issue, particularly because I have not studied it thoroughly. I will say, though, that there is a veiled threat of litigation against YCUA if they proceed to adopt the request of the township. And that would have a linear impact on our budget because we are a funding organization of YCUA.
It being 10:58, I will put my council proposed business on Facebook. And just for public record, yes, I read the agenda.
That's all I had to say on that piece. So we can move on. It's 10:58.
You're going to share the information with us in email?
Because we got it during the meeting, I do not know what I'm allowed to say, and it came from the attorney, and the attorney's in the meeting with us.
It.
Yeah,
Okay,
and our
thank
attorney's
you.
in the meeting with us.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes. I just wanted to like know what, I'm sorry, I missed what the next steps. Thank you.
No, I didn't actually say that out loud, but yeah, it came from the attorney in the middle of our meeting. It has been reviewed by our attorney, so I didn't want to speak to it publicly because of what it said.
All right, thank you.
It's 10:59. Water Street clear cutting.
So that's me. We got no minutes left to basically say that this was completely outside of my expectation that there would be a clear cut to do the soil testing. I understood there was going to be a clear cut for the remediation portion, but for the new soil testing, that is a complete shocker. I'm very upset about it. I do think staff has been dishonest about this issue. And there's been reports of encampment fires that happened right before the clear cut, and that the individual that was caught doing the encampment fires was arrested, but then the charges were dismissed. So that all sounds very suspicious to me. And I would just caution if there's any backroom goings-ons to kind of further clear cuts, that needs to be halted now, because that was not at all communicated to council. Thank you.
There's no tree trimming since December.
It is now 11 p.m. Council
There
did
should
not
be no more.
extend the meeting, so the meeting is adjourned.
It's clear cut to the border trail. There has been more.
One, oh.
That shouldn't have happened.
I don't know.
I